Okay.
Yeah, because you used to call me the golden child, for those who understand the reference from the old Eddie Murphy movie. And I just had a lot of questions, like Mariah had mentioned before, growing up in a Christian church, Baptist background, there were just holes in the story that just wasn't lining up and making sense. And it took me all the way up until I was 32 years old to open the book up for myself after my roommate Shamaria had came to me and spoke a few words. And then I realized how lost I was. And I realized also that I wasn't the only one. So an important thing about what we're going to go over today is the power of words. Even if the words are being spoken in this foul English language, the words still have power. And a common misconception is when you hear specific words or phrases, you automatically think that it's just a good thing or just a bad thing. So I'll give you an example. When you hear the word reward, you automatically assume that that's a good thing. Would you agree or disagree?
Agree.
Okay, so I guess if you want to put a title on what I'm going to go over today, it's kind of broken down into two parts. And I received these revelations with witnesses, and some of the witnesses actually came from Abijah, some of them came from Shamar, some of them came from one of the other Akyam or brothers in the assembly. So if you want to put a title on this, I will call it Count the Cost, What's Really at Stake. Count the cost, what's really at stake. Because in these last days, we know that we're already in the fire, but over time, the temperature is going to be turned up and our faith is going to be tested. And Mariah Baja said something very profound last week because, you know, when that word first came to me, I was like, Father, is this from you or is this my own flesh speaking to me? Because I don't want to be speaking vanity. I don't want to speak empty, pointless words just for my own glorification. And Abijah had said something very profound and it stuck with me, and I'm just going to share it just because last week he was going through some things himself. He had said that people don't know what it's going to cost them to stay in sin or to walk this walk. And to go back to what I just said, you know, whenever you hear the word count the cost, you might feel one way, negatively or positively. So we're going to look at both spectrums of that. And we're going to use some of the witnesses and accounts in the book itself to give everyone an idea of where they stand. Because me, myself, personally, I'm a very introspective person. I don't really like to make excuses for anything. Let's just figure out the solution and move forward. So without further ado, I want to set some foundational understanding for those who may be new and for those who may be, just now taking on this walk. So are my readers prepared and ready?
Yeah.
So let's go to the book of Psalm, chapter 119.
Hallelujah.
KJV.
Yeah, I'll let everybody know when the Septuagint is necessary, just because most of the scriptures that we're going to go through in the on the teaching today, most of them consistently line up with the KJV. It's only just a couple of them that we're going to go to the Septuagint for, and there's a reason for that. So the book of Psalm 119, verse 151. Shamar, whenever you're ready. Like I said, since we have some newer people, if you do speak in the Hebrew, I ask that you edify them as well as using terms and words that they are familiar with.
Thou art near, O Yahweh, and all thy commandments are truth.
Okay, so the parameters and foundation that I want to set up, I want to break down some spiritual strongholds that have our people bound. And Mariah Abijah has been going through this class called Uprooting Christianity for a while now, ever since pretty much all of 2021. It's just to get our family and friends and loved ones out of the spiritual confusion, which is called Christianity. They literally tell you one thing, say it's from the Bible, and do the exact opposite. So the mindset is what I want to, just plant some seeds of critical thinking to, just to get you to look at this thing from an Eastern standpoint and not a Westernized, Americanized, domesticated mind. So when it comes to this whole walk and understanding that the Negro are the children of Israel, it comes with a set of rules and parameters, laws and bylaws that we are to keep when we are calling ourselves the children of Israel, coming in the name of the Most High God, Yahweh. So that by itself is one thing that Christianity tells you you don't have to worry about, because when Jesus died, he paid it all for us. So one more time, Shamar, could you read Psalm 119 and 151?
Thou art near, O Yahweh, and all thy commandments are truth.
Okay, so we hear that word truth. Now let's back up a little bit, Shamar. Could you read verses 142?
Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is thy truth.
Okay, so that word truth, we have a parallel that ties into the law. What law, some of you might ask? Well, it is the law that was given to us on Mount Sinai with Uncle Moses, or Masha in the Hebrew, when he wrote us the 10 Commandments. That was when we were come into covenant with the Most High God to agree to the terms and conditions of his eternal contract or covenant, that if we kept the law, we will be blessed above all other people. But if we broke the law, we will be set down very low. We'll be at the bottom of the barrel in the four corners of the earth. Okay? So with that, now let's go to Luke chapter 14, because we want to start getting into, we're going to get into both sides of this thing. Said it's going to be very reading intensive. For those who are new, just follow along the best that you can. If there's something that you're confused on, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. No question, no specific question is a dumb question. One philosophy I live by is if you don't ask any questions and you're brand new to something, that is the foolish mistake that you'll make. There's no way you won't have questions if there's something you're hearing for the first time and you've never, ever even experienced it before. And as Abijah said, we are all children of the slaves. So we're all children. That's why we're called the children of Israel. So Luke chapter 14, verses 26 through 33. Shema when everybody has it.
Shema.
And Shema in Hebrew just means you're ready to listen. You're ready to listen intently. Whenever you're ready, Shema.
If any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and wife and children and brethren and sisters, yea, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple.
Okay, you can stop right there. So these past couple of weeks have been weighing on me heavy. A lot of our people have been experiencing the fire, the adversity that's coming when it comes to the glaze or the jab, and all of these intimidation means that these wicked agendas and these wicked governments are using to pretty much beat our people into submission to conform to their image and likeness. So what color are y'all words written in what we just read?
Red.
Now, for the understanding that I have, that's the coming King, Jesus the Christ, or Yahweh Shah HaMashiach, am I correct? Now, what did he say? Read that again. You can go all the way through, Shamar.
If any man come to me and hate not his father, mother, wife, children, brethren, sisters, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple.
Mhm.
And whosoever doth not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple.
Mhm.
For which of you, intending to build a tower, sitteth not down first and counteth the cost,
Mm-mm.
whether he have sufficient to finish it, lest happily after he have laid the foundation and is not able to finish it, and that behold, it began to mock him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish. Or what king going to make war against another king sitteth not down first and consulteth whether he be able with 10,000 to meet him that cometh against him with 20,000? Or else, while the other is yet a great way off, he sendeth an assemblage. Help me out there. Say it again. He sendeth an ambassage and desireth conditions of peace. So likewise, whosoever he be of you that forsaketh not all that he have, he cannot be my disciple.
So you got to forsake some.
He that forsaketh not all that he hath.
So you got to pretty much be willing to lay your life down. Okay. So that one scripture right there, a lot of us probably never have even read. And what's been weighing heavy on my spirit these days is people aren't properly counting the cost on what is happening in the earth. More importantly, due to our lack of understanding and knowledge, because the scriptures say my people are destroyed because of a lack of what?
Knowledge.
Okay. So due to us not having the understanding of what this word is really saying and who it's really talking to, not us having the understanding of what it means to really be called Israel, not having the understanding of what's even happening with these plans of genocide against us, we kind of sweep things under the rug. And as a result, we're consumed because of it. But even those who are in this truth still aren't properly counting the cost. They think just because they wear fringes, they wear the tassels, that they come to and honor the Shabbat instead of going to church on Sunday, and that they keep they ain't eating pork no more. They think that they just gonna be able to make it to the kingdom of heaven. But how many people know that Hasatan, or Satan, is an angel of light? So what does that mean, Narayah? Okay, well, who's to say when these agendas ramp up and this glaze is mandated to a point where if you don't get it, they're going to be willing to take your child. If you don't get it, they're going to fire you from your job. If you don't get it, your wife or your husband is going to leave you. And this doesn't just pertain to the glaze or the jab itself. This pertains to everything that's happening. So are you going to be able to take up your cross? Are you going to be able to stand on this word and forsake all that you own in order to follow Christ?
This is a powerful precept, and just I love every time someone that's how we know that the Most High is with us and with these young men, because I didn't vet nothing he's bringing out. I didn't have to ask him. Same thing with the other two brothers, Yashaya and Shemar. I didn't ask them. I said, whatever the Most High put on your heart, that's what you edify the people with. And in this class already, these first two precepts. So what Hamashiach says in Luke 14 and 27, and whosoever do not bear his cross and come after me, this precept or this class is going in right in parallel with uprooting Christianity. Because uprooting Christianity, we're trying to tear down every form and every interjection they put in. Now, Hamashiach was from what tribe?
Judah.
and he's an Israelite, right?
Right.
Putting people on crosses is not the Israelite customs. What will we do to crucify you or to put you to death?
Stone him.
Stone, or we burn, or we did hang you on a tree.
On a tree.
But we would have to cut you down before sunset.
Before sunset.
So why in the world does this text have Hamashiach saying to bear your cross? That's adulteration for us. So when you look up this word cross in the Greek lexicon, it goes to the Greek letter G4716. The Greek letter or the Greek Strong's G4716. And in the Greek tongue is staros. It's staros. And they're going to give you a whole bunch of descriptions about the state, torture state, and all that mess about a cross. But it doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit the Israelite custom. The only definition that makes sense, and Narayah just said it after he started the breakdown, the only definition of this word that makes sense that Hamashiach would have really said, it says, it's a noun from hystemi, and hystemi goes back to Greek 2476, and guess what it means? To stand, to stand. So our king didn't tell you to pick up no proverbial cross. That's a Babylonian Persian torture state. Hamashiach is saying, make a stand for me. Stand for me. Not pick up some proverbial Christian cross that's a pagan idolatry symbol. Hamashiach is saying, stand for me. Stand for the truth. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. So moving on from here, and I appreciate what you're doing, what you just did. Because I prayed to the Father, I was like, yo, I want to keep it as simple as possible. So Father, put it on everybody else's spirit to break down this stuff. So moving on from there, we're going to go into a little bit more detail on what it looks like to stand for Hamashiach. So let's go to the book of Ecclesiasticus, or Sirach, chapter 2. And this is in the Apocryphal Bible. This isn't in the traditional KJV. So if you need to, you can just Google it. You can just type in Sirach, Sirach, chapter 2. And we're going to read this whole chapter. And it's only 18 verses. And for those who are a little more seasoned, they already know what the first verse say. But I think the whole chapter speaks very loud in context with what we're bringing up today. Because as I said before, there are preconceived notions by the words and the phrases that we do state already. And due to our lack of understanding, that leads to a lack of context. So that's how you get just Christianity, where they bring out one verse and then they'll speak on that one verse for an hour and a half. And everybody feels good, but nobody's actually being edified. Sirach 2, Shimon. Go ahead, Shimon.
No, hold on. One more again. Say it. Sorry. Say that chapter again.
Sirach 2, Ecclesiasticus, chapter 2.
Thank you.
Ready? Go ahead, Shimon.
My son, if thou come to serve Yahweh, prepare thy soul for temptation.
Stop right there. So one thing I want to expose about Christianity and just us being domesticated in westernized civilization altogether. Whenever we go through any adversity or whenever something seems amiss or wrong, we automatically think we're doing something bad. But when you read the Bible in its proper context, you start to understand, firstly and foremost, the Father is not of this world. Neither was his son. So if we are to follow after his image and likeness in the name of his only begotten son, that means we should not be of this world either, right? We're in the world, but we're not of the world. Okay, so if we're not of the world, think about it from a practical standpoint. If there's a people group that hates you and they come to your family reunion, how would you look at that person? You side-eye. They would go, yeah, what you doing here? What's your set, homie? In other words, you would hate them, right? So us being pilgrims, Ibaryam in this world that doesn't know us because it doesn't know our brother, coming king, or our father, it hates us. So we should prepare ourselves if we come in the name of the Heavenly Father to be hated. Go ahead, Shmar.
My son, if thou come to serve Yahweh, prepare thy napash or thy soul for temptation. Set thy heart aright and constantly endure, and make not haste in the time of trouble.
How often should we endure?
Constantly endure, and make not haste in the time of trouble. Cleave unto him and depart not away, that thou mayest be increased at thy last end. Whatsoever is brought upon thee, take it cheerfully, and be patient when thou art changed to a low estate.
Okay, now what does some of that stuff mean?
Help me.
All right, now let's look at King Yahushua, or Jesus the Christ. Let's look at his life, because we know that this whole book was written to him. So let's think about some of the things that he had to endure, some of the things that he had to go through, because the text said he suffered all things, right? So there were times his name was probably lied on. There were times that he became angry, that he became sad, depressed, fearful, but he constantly endured and set his heart and mind aright.
Bring it out.
So before he was crucified, he said something along the lines, and Yashiyah, you can help me out with this. I think it's in John chapter 16. He had told the disciples before he was crucified, he said, look, everything that's coming got to happen. This world gonna hate you, but don't worry. Don't even trip, because I've already overcome the world. And whenever you get it, Yashiyah, bring that out real quick.
John 16.
Can we get a mic on?
All right, I'm gonna start at John 15, and then I'm gonna go into John.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start at John 15 at 17. These things I command you, that ye love one another, because the world hate you. You know that it hated me before it hated you. If ye were of the world will love his own. But because ye are not of the world, but I have chosen you out of the world, therefore the world hateth you. Remember the word that I said unto you.
Hold on. Let me stop him right there, because we're Westernized, and we were raised in Greek society, so we learned their words and their vocabulary. Y'all, how many remember 5 times each in high school or grade school? So when we hear that word that the world will hate you, we're thinking hate like, you want to kill. But this hate, if you look it up in the Hebrew, it can also mean, if you keep it in context, it can mean be bothered, be an adversary. So the world hating you, this includes your family. Your family's being turned off by you. You're causing all this havoc. We can't even celebrate anything. All the barbecues, you want to make it be known that you don't want nothing that pork done touched. So your own family is starting to be agitated by you. They don't hate you like you would hate an enemy, but you're starting to be a thorn, because you have separated from the world system, and your family, mom, dad, brother and sister, big mama, pop, they're still in the world. That's why we gotta endure. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, start back at verse 20. Remember the word that I said unto you, the servant is not greater than his master. If ye if they have persecuted me, they will also persecute you.
They will also do what?
Persecute you.
Okay.
If they have kept my sayings, they will keep yours also. But all these things will they do unto you for my name's sake, because they know not him that sent me. If I had not come and spoken unto them, they had not had sin. But now they have no cloak for their sin. He that hated me hateth the Father also. If I had done among them the works which none other man did, they had not had sinned. But now have they both seen and hated both me and my Father. But this cometh to pass that the word might be fulfilled that is written in the law, in their law, they hated me without cause.
Where was that written?
In the law.
In the law, and particularly Psalm 35, 19. So it's not. At verse 26. But when the Comforter is come, whom I will send unto you from the Father, even the Spirit or what of truth, which proceedeth from the Father, he shall testify of me, and he also shall bear witness, because ye have been with me from the beginning.
Okay, so two things that Yashia said before he goes to John 16. Verse 25, but this cometh to pass that the word might be fulfilled that is written in their law. Now, earlier we went to Psalm 119 and 142, and it says that their law is the truth. Okay, then the very next verse in 26, but when the Comforter is come, whom I will send unto you from the Father, even the Spirit or Ruach of truth. So what does that mean? The Spirit of the law. You see how everything just ties in together? Does that make sense for everybody online and in the house?
Not only that, when you open up with Psalms 119, I think it was 42, it said the law was forever, right?
So you can go ahead, Yashia. You can go to John 16. It's just a quick segue.
Okay, so John 16, I'm gonna go straight to the verse 33. These things I have spoken unto you, that in me ye might have peace. In the world ye shall have tribulation.
Shall have what?
Tribulation.
What does tribulation mean, y'all? Trial, trouble,
hardship.
Go ahead, yeah.
But be of good cheer, I have overcome the world.
Now he said this while he was still, quote unquote, in the world. But he is our ultimate example on how to function while we also are in the world. So I just wanted to go that quick segue, and then we can jump right back to Ecclesiasticus 2, and Shamar, you can pick up where you left off. If you don't mind, start back over from verse 4.
Whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully, and be patient when thou art changed to a low estate. For gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity.
The furnace of what?
The furnace of adversity.
So this fire that I keep speaking of is adversity, things that happen in our life that we might not understand at the time, but what the world does to us for our harm, the Most High is doing for our good when we obey his voice with the testimony of his Son. Go ahead, Shamar.
Believe in him, and he will help thee. Order thy way aright, and trust in him. Ye that fear Yahweh, wait for his mercy, and go not aside unless ye fall. Ye that fear Yahweh, believe him, and your reward shall not fail. Ye that fear Yahweh, hope for good and for everlasting joy and mercy. look at the generations of old and see, did ever any trust in Yahweh and was confounded? Or did any abide in his fear and was forsaken? Or whom did he ever despise that called upon him?
Didn't Joshua, son of Nun, say the same thing?
Check my resume.
Check my resume.
Most High saying, check his resume, man.
Plus, can you go back up? Because for the new people, Christianity has separated belief and action. And he said it right here. Go back to verse Sirach 2 and where is that?
6.
And 6.
Believe in him, and he will help thee. Order thy way aright.
Order, that means you got to do something too besides believing. So all this is tying together with uprooting Christianity. Stand in the face of adversity, but you got to do something to stand. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
For ya, look at the generations of old and see, did ever any trust in Yahweh and was confounded? Or did any abide in his fear and was forsaken? Or whom did he ever despise that called upon him? For Yahweh is full of compassion and mercy and long suffering and very pitiful, and forgiveth sins, and saveth in the time of affliction.
Hallelujah.
And saveth in the time of affliction.
So we ain't supposed to just wait for death and then we'll go to heaven.
And saveth in the time of affliction.
Let's look at this practically real quick, y'all. For everybody that's familiar with Superman, superhero movies in general, there's always a damsel in distress or somebody that's in some sort of trouble, tribulation. So what's the first thing they cry out when they see the hero come?
Save me.
Save me. Now, does the hero wait for them to die and then say, I got you?
That's good. Oh, yeah. That's good. Common sense. He ain't wait for them to die to bring them back.
So we ain't got to go no further than that.
Hallelujah.
You can go ahead, Shamar.
Just ask questions. That Christianity makes no sense, man.
I'll get you after you're dead.
Yeah.
Wait for him to hit the ground first.
Praise more.
Hey, that's good.
That's powerful. Hallelujah.
That's what you saying, it,
All right, now we got to pay attention right here. Verse 12 is when it get real. You got to count the cost. Before we about to get into it. Verse 12.
Woe be to fearful hearts and faint hands, and the sinner that goeth 2 ways. Woe unto him that is faint-hearted, for he believeth not. Therefore shall he not be defended.
So you got the jab because you believe not. You got that hot blaze in your arm because you believe not.
Then they want you to be saved now.
Now that's why I told my daughter, I said, because she's a Christian, my baby girl's a Christian, you know, her mom and step-pop pastors. She started saying, well, Dad, we know we got to heal her. I'm like, here we go. This is my own child I got to say this to. And I says, yes, our Father can heal all things, but why put him in that position too when if you obey his law in the first place, you wouldn't be in that predicament needing a miracle.
Thou shalt not tempt thou.
That's why we be on point.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. Like it's just a commandment. Like you're supposed to obey the Most High. Don't tempt him to then get glazed up or whatever the case may be. And now
then cry out.
Then you're crying out. The Most High don't respond. He don't want to hear that. Because you should have believed in him from the beginning. Say, no, I'm not gonna take this or I'm not gonna do this because I believe in his word. So now if you obey from the beginning, when you get in the time of trouble, boom, your letter is approved. Boom, you don't have to get the shot so you can continue working or whatever the case may be because you believe from the beginning.
They're used to sinning and then asking for forgiveness.
Oh,
Wow.
We just
That's what they do.
So for those who didn't hear the lead-in Mother Gina, also really, really quick, I want to give honor to the leaders of the house.
all praise to Yah.
Mariah, Baja.
All praise to Yah.
But she said, say that again, Sister Jean. I want them to hear from you.
I said that they're used to sinning and then asking for forgiveness.
And we were domesticated. Y'all understand we were sold over here as slaves, chattel slavery. They treated us less than animals.
Yes.
They still treat us less than animals.
Killing they laws. They ain't changed the laws.
If the land that wasn't ours, we were brought over here captives. And these rules were set up before they considered us as actual people.
3/5.
What makes you think they're gonna treat us any different when that same constitution still stands?
That's why you know this place is wrong.
That's how you know. Go ahead, Shamar. Verse 14.
Woe unto you that have lost patience.
Has lost what?
Woe unto you that have lost patience.
So you didn't endure to the end.
We all gotta check ourselves.
Yeah,
All of us.
That's exactly why
That
this
hurts.
is being brought out.
that hurt.
And what will you do when Yahweh shall visit you? Woe unto you that have lost patience. And what will you do when Yahweh shall visit you? They that fear Yahweh will not disobey his word. They that respect the Most High will not disobey his word.
So they can't sin.
They that reference the Most High will not disobey his word.
Bring it out.
And they that love him will keep his ways.
Now, what are his ways, y'all?
The law.
His commandments.
The law. That's why they took this out of your Bible.
They that fear Yahweh will seek that which is well pleasing unto him. And they that love him shall be filled with the law.
Get that New Testament. Get that precept.
And while he's looking for that, for the new people, I want to say this to you. I want to make it simple and plain. The kingdom of heaven is already here in the earth. The kingdom of heaven starts in your mind. I'm gonna give you an example. One of our biggest snares that come upon our people in the beginning when they're waking up to who we are is the dietary law. Pork, shrimp, crab legs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Those are some of the things that when you hear is an abomination and it's not even food for us. If you're seeking salvation and you want to enter into the kingdom of heaven, these things are abominations and they're not food. So with that,
Bring it out. Bring it out.
with that comes discipline. You got to be disciplined. So it's not necessarily that you love to do it in the beginning. It's because you're willing to obey your heavenly Father. You're seeking salvation. Yahweh, also known as Jesus the Christ, when he said that those who don't hate their father, mother, their own life, what does that mean? Those who are willing to put their own will to decide. If you ain't willing to do that, you're not worthy of me. Now, who is he? Yahweh Shai. Yahweh's salvation. You're not worthy of Yahweh's salvation if you're not willing to put these things to the side for my name's sake.
I don't know if they got that.
That's powerful.
Say that again.
So Yahweh Shai, also known as Yahushua, Yahusha, Yashiyah, and of course this American tongue, Jesus the Christ. Yahweh Shai said, if you're not willing to forsake this world and everything and everyone associated with it, you are not worthy of me. So Yahweh Shai means Yahweh's salvation. If you're not willing to turn away from this world and come back into this covenant, you're not worthy of Yahweh's salvation.
That's
So
powerful.
I'm going to make it clear cut for y'all.
That's powerful.
If you don't turn back and acknowledge that we are the children of Israel and come back to the covenant with the testimony of the Son, King Yahushua, you will die.
Let me read this again, and then Yashiyah gonna read a precept, verse 15.
Where you at, Al?
Torah, verse 15. They that fear Yahweh will not disobey his word, and they that love him will keep his ways. They that fear Yahweh will seek that which is well pleasing unto him, and they that love him shall be filled with the Torah.
The law.
Go ahead, guys.
So I actually have two precepts. So the first one, by Shemariah, going to that love and the Torah, the commandments. John 14:15, if you love me, keep my commandments. So if you love the Most High, if you love the Mashiach, you're going to keep his commandments. You're going to live a life in obedience to this law. And then the next precept is Psalms 51:7-8. Hearken unto me, ye that know righteousness, the people whose heart is my law. Fear ye not the reproach of men, neither be afraid of their reviling. For the moth shall eat them up like a garment, and the worm shall eat them like wool. But my righteousness shall be forever, and my salvation from generation to generation. So that hearken, that listening, that being attentive to the Most High's voice, those who know righteousness, those whose heart is the Most High's law. We don't have room to fear these wicked imaginations of the heathen, because it doesn't compare to the wrath that the Most High is going to have for them, the nation that the Mashiach is going to pour upon them. And night and
What precept was that?
Isaiah 51.
Isaiah.
Yeah, you gotta give us time, because I was in the song, because I heard songs. So,
I think I did say.
So
So Isaiah 51.
let's go back to you.
Say that again. Excuse us, y'all. It's Isaiah 51. Isaiah chapter 51.
That's why we go for Bereans, we gotta find it for ourselves.
Isaiah 51:7-8.
Come on.
Hearken unto me, ye that know righteousness, the people whose heart is my law. Fear ye not the reproach of men, neither be afraid of their revilings. For the moth shall eat them like a garment, and the worm shall eat them like wool. But my righteousness is forever, and my salvation from generation to generation. So if the law of the Most High is in your heart, you have no room for fear. You have no room for fearing the heathen. You have no room for fearing their imagination. You have no room of the things that they're going to do unto, or they will threaten to do unto you, because it's the Most High that's going to defend you. That's that Sirach 4:28. That go to is that, like, when you're, I'm gonna mess this up. But when you stand for the law, the Most High is going to fight for you. You know what I'm saying? When you strive for the truth, the Most High is going to fight for you.
Exactly.
But even, go ahead.
You strive unto the truth unto death, the Most High will fight for you, and that salvation will come. That's all I got.
I don't know if you got it in your class, because even the brothers from Maccabees, remember the mom from Maccabees? Even if the Most High allowed them to slay you, our ancestors said, my father is coming back to judge y'all. So that's what this whole class, you got this. Now it's time to make up your mind. You can't wait till you ain't been in the gym in 2 years. Now you're going to go and put 300 on the bar. You about to kill yourself. So you can't wait till you're jobless. You can't wait till you're homeless and now try to build up your faith in the cold, because your mind going to be focused on this cold out here. So now when the National Guard come by with COVID blankets, because you ain't practiced, you want to take the COVID blankets. So now's the time to make your stand in your rawak, that though they slay me, or the Most High allow them to slay me, I'm going to stand.
Now, since you brought that up, something just got dropped in my spirit right there. Y'all know those glow in the dark, like how glow in the dark materials work? Like just anything, like those little glow in the dark stickers we used to make, like little days, like little stars you put on your, it's like you looking at stars. Do y'all know how those things function and operate? How do you get them to glow in the dark?
I don't know.
So you would shine,
break it up, or
you would shine, you would put them on a light, right? And then they'll be illuminated. So when you turn the lights off, they'll glow.
Oh, okay.
So where have we read that?
The light
When Uncle Masha went up,
and the glory of Yah was on him.
so when he descended back into the darkness, he was still shining.
Wow, that's powerful. That's powerful.
So how do we get that same experience? We invest into the word. We invest into the assembly, and we come back to the covenant with our whole heart, mind, and soul. That's how we're able to shine in the darkness. But those who aren't willing to do the work and be disciplined in their mind, the kingdom ain't gonna come to you.
Man, it's powerful.
I don't know how.
No, just let somebody got something to say.
You got something, Dorian, Gerald?
A lot of thoughts, man. Y'all sparking a lot of stuff, but I was kind of delaying and waiting. So kind of earlier, what you were saying about the Superman thing, and just to kind of tip on that, the point you made was you're not waiting for a savior. Say that again. What y'all say? You're not, because I want to make sure I say something correctly. With the Superman, you said everybody want a savior once they're in trouble, and then they say, please save us, please save us. But when the savior come, y'all made the point, what?
He don't save you when you're dead.
Yeah.
Yahweh is the power or the God of the living, not the dead.
Got you. So the savior, okay. So understanding, most of us will hope, let's say if we continue to do what we're doing and being at the time we're in, most of us hope to go back into the land and not have to see death, correct?
Right.
But we know that there are some that will die and they have to die in order to be with Hamashiach. Correct? So the manifestation of these hopes ultimately is everlasting life for all of us, but we know the manifestation of these hopes will be somewhat different from for us, because if we all go into the land, then we're going to experience the Messianic kingdom from a perspective of never really seeing death. And from our current understanding, I think I don't know where y'all at with this, but I don't know if it's when we get to the trees of life at Revelation 22 that the ones that didn't die during the Messianic kingdom will fully get that immortality, or if something happens during the Messianic kingdom. I'm not sure. But what I do know is those who died, their likeness is going to be changed. They're going to be like Christ, those who die and get to rule with him. So to say that when the scriptures say, we was talking about those who remain faithful to the end. In Revelations chapter 2 and 3, was looking at something last night that was bringing out what he kept telling them to, I think he keep telling them to conquer. You conquer, and I will clothe you in white robes in verse 2. And then in chapter 2, but in chapter 3, he say, keep conquering, and I will give you this token, or I will give you this pebble, and you will rule, with me. Like that. I don't want to go off topic because I don't know where you're going with this, but I don't know where you're going. But from that perspective, we know, like, are we speaking from the perspective of assuming that we're all going into the land? Is that what we're focusing on right now, or are we talking about those who will be put to death? Because he said you gotta hate your mother, father, brother, sister, but also your own life, and some of us will be put to death, which means that manifestation would be different. If you understand the question I'm asking, where I'm coming from.
Yeah, the point, what he was trying to make is when you in Christianity, they tell you that you just pretty much, you live and then you die and then you go to heaven to get your salvation. But what he's trying to say is the salvation to the nation of Israel is a waiting on a physical salvation. It's not to, we know some people gonna die, but they'll be resurrected. But the salvation is for you to prosper here on the earth, not after you're dead. So it was a brainwashing. Me and Reggie was just talking about this. It's a brainwashing to tell us, well, while every other nation is having their heaven right now on earth, that you, black man, you only can get your heaven after you die. But let me keep you in your land of captivity and keep oppressing you, when in the meantime, you're supposed to be the king ruling on the earth. So that's what he was saying. The Savior is not to save you after death. And we know that if someone leaves this life, if you're in the truth, you're not dead. You're resting, you're sleeping, you're going to return. But as a whole, the salvation of the nation is not to wait until the nation is dead and gone, because the Most High is not the Elohim of a dead people or a dead nation. He is the Elohim of the living. So that's what his point is in general. As a nation, you are to strive unto death, but the hope and salvation is to be saved physically while you're alive. So that's that's what he's trying to say.
Got you. Which ties into the whole point of, remember how you say there would be two, you believe there would be two kingdoms at one time, Esau's kingdom, and then Judah would go back and establish the kingdom. And before Hamashiach come back, the kingdom would already have to be in place. The role will have to switch. We will have to be saved and put back in our intended place before it's all said and done. It's not something that you die and then wait to go to heaven in order to be in this high glorious position in heaven. No, it's going to happen here on earth.
That's why Paul said, I die daily, didn't he? Because, and just to add on to what's being spoken of, we already have to die. It's like one of those things that you'll only get by the Ruach.
Yeah.
Because what does baptism represent? The killing of the old man and the coming to life of the new man. The water represents the grave. So speaking to that, because we know the Most High has different functions and titles, as do we. We know that we are his children. We know that we are his army. We know that we are his house. King Yahushua or Christ spoke on that earlier, because he's the chief cornerstone. So speaking on that army, let's just go ahead and finish
17, 18.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and speed through that real quick.
Verse 17, back to Ecclesiasticus real quick.
Put chapter and verse.
Sirach chapter 2, verses 17 and 18. We're just finishing this chapter out.
They that fear Yahweh will prepare their hearts and humble their souls in his sight, saying, we will fall into the hands of Yahweh and not into the hands of men. For as his majesty is, so is his mercy.
Okay, now before I move on to the next precept, I'm going to read Luke chapter 12, because this ties into what Yashiach spoke on earlier and what Shamar just read. Those who fear Yahweh will prepare their hearts, saying we'd rather fall into the hands of Yahweh and not into the hands of men. Why? Because Most High Yah is full of mercy and compassion and long suffering, whereas our enemies, they'll feed us to alligators, burn us alive, rape our women and men, and oppress us financially, emotionally, spiritually. So I want to read Luke 12, and I want to read verse 5. Now this is Christ talking. But I will forewarn you whom you shall fear. Notice in Sirach 2, you see that word, those who fear Yahweh. Christ is going to give us the game on who we should fear. But I will forewarn you whom you shall fear. Fear him, which after he hath killed the flesh, hath power to cast into hell. Yea, I say unto you, fear him. Now who's the only one who got that power?
Almighty.
And he bestowed it upon his son to execute judgment in the earth. So I spoke and said that being baptized, you kill off the old man and you arise a new creation. So that means in your mind, you have made a conscious decision to come back to the Father through his only begotten son. But I just also spoke and said that we are considered an army of Israel at times, are we not? So consider the baptism your way of re-enlisting into that army. So let's go to 2 Timothy chapter 2.
This is good stuff.
And while we're going there, just name some things that soldiers or an army does. What are some things that an army does? Train, fight. Do they have a good time?
Study.
Yeah.
After the victory.
After the victory, that's what I was looking for. But in the process of them preparing for battle, is it always rainbow and kisses?
No. We got work to do.
Okay.
You gotta get the VR right.
So 2 Timothy chapter 2, and we just gonna read verses 3 and 4. Just 3 and 4.
Shema.
Shema.
Thou therefore endure hardness as a good soldier of Yahushua HaMashiach,
As a good
Jesus
what?
Christ. As a good soldier. Thou therefore endure hardness as a good soldier of Yahushua HaMashiach.
Now, what do y'all think this hardness is?
Family lying on you. Family talking behind your back.
Mom talking behind your back,
Mom getting sick.
mom getting sick, everybody dying around you. The thoughts of in your own mind,
Waiting for the salvation.
waiting for the salvation, enduring it to the end,
Enduring.
spiritual warfare.
Jobless.
These are the adversities. This is the fire that's going to come upon you. But it says to endure hardships, endure the adversity like a good soldier, because the war is already, just like Abijah has said time and time again. For the new ones, I'm going to go ahead and bring it out now. We are behind enemy lines. The war has been here ever since the Garden of Eden. But we've been fighting and failing for generations, and come to our generation, we didn't even know what we were a part of. We don't even know that we're part of this battle. But now it's time to get up, wake up, and mount up. So go ahead, verse 4 more.
And man up. No man that warreth entangleth himself in the affairs of this life.
Which life?
This life,
Okay.
that he may please him who have chosen him to be a soldier.
So did we choose this walk?
No.
It was just one day. You was sitting in your room. You was thinking about something that you heard 3 years ago. It was a conversation that somebody had came by and they spoke 2 or 3 words to you. And then a revelation just hit you. That wasn't you. That was the Father pricking your spirit to come back to him. So I tell people that know me personally and that interact with me on a regular basis, don't take it for granted that you understand the words that are being spoken in these times. Because King Yahushua in Matthew 24 says, and the gospel and this gospel, not Christian gospel, the good news, that word gospel just means report. This report of the kingdom shall be preached in all corners of the earth, and then the end shall come. Not when you can sin all week and then on Sunday you can just go to church for 2 hours and then you're good to go back to sinning again. That's not the report King Yahushua or Christ was talking about. And it's time for us to sit down and really meditate and think, is this, because most importantly, reading the book for ourselves, reading the book, because when you read the book for yourself and don't have outside sources telling you what to believe, it's going to start looking different to you just off of that. All right. So now that we have set up that part of the foundation, we're going to finish setting the foundation because we've went into what truth is. We've went into what comes along with following that. Now let's look at it from the other spectrum of counting the cost. Counting the cost. We're going to go to 1 John chapter 2. Another thing Christianity will say, well, no man can keep the law. Nobody can keep the law. That's why Christ had to die. Everybody gonna sin. Okay, let's see what the word actually say.
I know you sound just like when you say it like that.
We're just gonna read that very first verse and then we're gonna skip around. Just that first verse.
My little children, these things write I unto you, that you sin not. And if any man sin, we have an advocate with the Father, Yahushua, the Christ, the righteous.
Okay, just right there, just that first verse. So John
literally told us not to sin, didn't he? Now, if something was impossible, why would they tell us to not do it? So if he tells us to sin not, that means it's possible. Did not King Yahushua or Jesus the Christ come in this corruptible flesh? Then he didn't sin. And if we were to be called by his name, though we were in sin, moving forward, now that we're coming into this marvelous light, we should be able to rid ourselves from sin also through the power of the Father by the blood of the Son, right? Okay.
And also, man, this is I don't know if people are catching this. This is some good teaching. And it's also a witness why we need our language and why we need to learn the Torah. Because when Yachanan or John is saying sin not, he's not saying in the Greco sense be perfect. When you go back and read the Torah, we had sacrifices for they were called trespass offerings and sin offerings. So it's like, what's the difference? What's the difference between a sin and a trespass? Well, when you look at it in the Hebrew, a sin would be kata. And a sin means you knew not to sleep with that woman and you did it anyway. You knew not to steal from the offering and you stole anyway. You knew better. But a trespass is, I fought that temptation with all my power and I lost that battle that day. So I had to lie to my mom. I tried not to lie to her, but I lied to my mom. I tried not to, I fought those thoughts about stealing, but I stole. So you fell victim to that fight that day. You lost that battle, but you fought. So now you trespassed against the Most High. You knew you was fighting, but you fell short. That's a trespass.
I want y'all to remember what Abadja's bringing out right now. We're going to talk about it a little bit later. Maybe looking at this, maybe about an hour from now.
So I'm gonna let him move on, but that's the power that we get coming back to the language.
I know.
A sin and a trespass are light years apart. Light years apart.
No, it's a fact. It's right here.
No, I'm just thinking it's kind of like real estate law. Like they have different
Bring it out.
offenses. I just can't think of the two offenses, but one is pretty much
Intentional.
intentional infraction of the law, and the other. So it's just like they base all our in this world laws on
This book.
All right. So it says, and if any man sin, we have an advocate with the Father, Jesus Christ, the righteous, Yahushua HaMashiach, the righteous. Now, an advocate, the first thing I think of is like a court of law. And if we sin, if we fall short, we make a mistake and, exchange blows with our brothers, just because we got a lot going on and it just got the better of us that day. If we sin, we have an advocate. But we're not going to keep doing this thing.
Right.
And we're not going to be prideful and not repent and apologize either. Okay, so now we're just going to skip down to verse 4. Is this making sense to everybody? Talk to me online, y'all. Does this make sense to y'all?
100.
All praises. Verse 4, whenever you're ready.
He that saith, I know him, and keepeth not his commandments is a liar.
Is a what?
He's a liar.
Okay.
And the truth is not in him.
And what is the truth again?
The law.
The law. Okay, so he that says, I know I'm a son of God. Going into the back after Sunday service, we're going to have some of them pork chops. That sister so-and-so done slaved and cooked for us all night.
Seen a so-called pastor on Instagram post some grilled pork chops yesterday. I said,
Oh my goodness.
This. Oh, sorry. Somebody want to speak.
Go ahead, Joe.
Christianity really is. It really is a contradiction. And it really is going to be the death of people, because like all of the points you bring it out, when you think about it, I mean, it ain't about expect the trials, endure the trials. It's coming. It's about prosperity and God blessing you to the point where you ain't got to experience these same issues that everybody else experienced. So that's contrary. They not teaching you the law when it comes to like the defiled foods and stuff like that. They're not teaching you that at all. So out the gate, you're already off with that. And it's like all of the points you bringing out, it really do tie into the like unbreaking Christianity, uprooting Christianity, because for anybody that's new, like I said, I'm just speaking to the you hear a lot of contrast to what he's bringing out, because the church clearly teach the opposite if they even touch this stuff at all, you know. And it just, man, it's touching my heart right now, because we was all victim at one point of thinking the same way, you know. And now that the veil has been removed and we clearly see it from, it's like it was literally saying it the whole time. We just let somebody's doctrine just make us look at it and receive it a different way. And man, you doing a good job, man.
What Gerald is saying is the Father never left us, because his word has to stand. He stands by his own law. And he made an oath to our fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Israel to deliver his people in the last days. So it's not him who left us, it's us who left him. And it was because of our own disobedience, our own pride. Think about it. Let's look at it practical, y'all. We just hard-headed.
Stiff that.
You tell us to do something, and just because, even if you ask politely, you're like, well, shoot, I ain't gonna do it now that you done said something. I was just about to do it.
That's good.
Oh, ouch.
That's why the Father had to come.
I was getting ready to get up. Now I get up.
Yeah, that's why the Father had to come down and turn the mountain when he came and visited Israel. That's why when he speaks, the earth shake and tremble, because he know we ain't impressed just because you got a whole bunch of money, just because you got all these guns or whatever you say you're gonna do. Think about it. Somebody would be disrespectful to the president of the United States. Our people just don't care.
They don't care.
Ignorant.
But when you show them something, the Father know. So what I mean by he's always been here, he put his spirit in these texts. This law is where his spirit resides. It's been now at the same time we're hard-headed, but everybody got a Bible at the house. And they're like, hey, watch your step, man. Don't sit on the Bible. What you doing? But now it's time for the spirit to come off the page and come into your heart and mind, because that's what the Father wants to do. So in the same chapter, 1 John chapter 2, we're gonna go down to verses 15 through 17, Shamar. Then I'm gonna give you a break.
Yeah, I can help out. I'm on.
Yeah, I'm gonna bounce it around just, to everybody in here. Whenever you're ready, Shamar.
Shema.
Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life is not of the Father, but is of the world. And the world passeth away, and the lust thereof, but he that doeth the will of the Most High abideth forever.
And just for the new people, what do y'all think the will of the Most High is? Keeping his laws, obeying his laws. Okay, go ahead, Yashia.
Psalm chapter 40.
That's the precept.
And we're gonna go to verse 8.
Psalms 40.
Psalms 40 at verse 8.
Come on.
I delight to do thy will, O my Elohim. Yea, thy law is within my heart. So the will of the Most High power is his law, and that's what's got to be in our heart.
But it ain't in the book no more. It ain't on the stones no more.
It gotta be in our heart.
In the heart. Okay. So now we're just gonna transition one chapter over. Does anybody have anything they want to add? Anybody on the line? Any questions, comments, concerns?
Zlaki, I do.
Go ahead, Abshah.
Yeah, all that you're bringing out, and even me and you talked about this this scripture a few times ago. That what's been on my mind this whole time is I'm still stuck on Romans 12 too. If you guys go to that, the Romans 12:2, or I'll even read it.
Give everybody a second to get there, though.
Yep.
Mom and y'all have it.
Shema.
Go ahead, Abshah.
Yeah, because you talked about the mind, right? It's in our mind that we make the resolve to do this, what we're supposed to do, and the change that we need to make. And it says, and be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove that what is good and acceptable and perfect will of the Most High. And what me and you talked about was breaking that down in your mind, because it says, prove to yourself what is good. Well, people see that it's good, the Most High's will is good, and they see that the Most High will is perfect. But that problem that they have right there is the acceptable part. They don't accept his will. That's why they can't do it. That's why they can't make the change. That's why they stay in Christianity, or that's why they're in this walk and they can't do it the way they're supposed to, because they haven't accepted it in their mind.
When he was bringing out through Ezekiel, what was he saying? Are my ways not perfect? Are your ways the ones that are not perfect?
Your words are crooked.
Your ways are the ones. Y'all the hypocrites. I gave y'all the game in Mount Sinai. This thing been around since the beginning. I ain't switched up.
Because he gave you the blessings and the curse. So it's like I was transparent. I didn't hide nothing. My ways are right. I told you what to do to live.
Yep. So he said, are my ways not equal? That's what he said. Are your ways not equal? Okay. So 1 John chapter 3. Appreciate that, Abishai. 1 John chapter 3. Mariah, if you don't mind taking the mantle.
1 John or Yakanan chapter 3, verse 3.
Verse 3.
And every man that hath this hope in him purifies himself, even as he is pure. Verse 4. Whosoever committeth sin transgresses also the Torah, the law.
The what?
The Torah, the law. For sin is the transgression of the law or the Torah.
Okay, so before we're establishing a foundation, like I told y'all, and then we're really going to start getting into this thing and start seeing examples. We established what truth is. The truth is the law. But now we got to establish what sin is. And Ibajah had already started bringing it out a little bit with the word kata. So to make it practical, it's almost like missing the mark. If you have a clear mark and you miss it, that's what it means to sin. To miss the mark, okay? Now in that same chapter, Mirage, just pick it up at verse 8.
1 John chapter 3.
Reality check time.
Verse 8. He that, Shema. He that committeth sin is of the devil. For the devil sinneth from the beginning. For this purpose, the Son of Yah, Hamashiach, was manifested, that he might destroy the works of the devil.
Okay, real quick, Mirage, just start that verse over and just read to that first comma mark. Pay attention to the words, y'all. This is what I mean with context. We got to understand what words mean.
The semicolon. 1 John chapter 3, verse 8. He that committeth sin is of the devil.
Okay, that's all we need right there. So just like I had said before in the beginning, we hear words and we automatically have a preconceived notion of good or bad, specifically to that word that's associated that we speak. So like that word reward, we automatically assume that that's just good all the time when we hear that word. The same thing applies to that word commitment. you hear commitment, you think the first thing that comes to my mind, at least just because we've been so domesticated and dumbed down, I think of like marriage. Because when you commit to something, that means you're willing to put the effort in and strive to make that thing go. But it says, he that committed sin. We got to look at these things both ways, y'all. And that's why it makes sense why our language doesn't have all this back and forth. The word is the word. You just got to have the rawat to understand it. So if you commit and sin, does that mean that you just transgress every once in a while, or you have an intentional decision in your mind to do that thing?
You married to it.
You married to it. And you were of the who?
The devil.
Okay.
That's why that's a spirit on you.
That's why it's a spirit on you. So for those who can't abstain from eating the pork, I'm going to keep worshiping my Jesus on Christmas. I know it ain't no pagan holiday, but I'm going to do it anyway. Why? Because that's what grandma taught us. That's what my mom taught us. That's what dad taught us. That's just what we've been taught. But is that the truth or is that sin? Like I said, I'm not just speaking to the people in the house and online and those who in the future might listen to this. I'm speaking to myself as well, because we all have to endure until the end. So going from there, we're going to go to Ezekiel chapter 8.
Hold on, Salakia, hold on. So in contrast, break down 9, just like you just did 8. Just drive it all the way. Break down 9.
Go ahead and read it for us, Gerald. Go ahead and read it for us.
So this King James, whosoever is born of God doth not commit sin.
Born of who, Gerald?
Born of the Most High.
Yeah, you can just read it. It don't matter.
I'm talking. I'm just reading it for the King James.
Yeah, for the sake of people, you can read the words that you see.
Whosoever is born of the Most High doth not commit sin, for his seed remaineth in him, and he cannot sin, because if he is born of the Most High.
Okay, so let's break down that word remaineth. Like I said, you got to pay attention to the words, y'all. Does that say the word was put in him?
It was off.
It was already in there. Because like we said earlier, did we choose this walk? Or did the Most High, through Christ, choose us? So you bringing out something that I was going to allude to a little bit later, Gerald. And
my bad, because I see a lot in 9, so I just wanted to hear you break it down. So
yeah, you're absolutely right. So what this is saying is, whosoever is of the Most High cannot sin, cannot willingly commit sin. That means you ain't gonna just be out here sinning on purpose continuously. You might slip, but you aren't gonna be out here intentionally disrespecting the Father. Now you're taking his name in vain. You might just be of the devil. Let's find. We're gonna find out about them a little bit later. But go ahead, Elijah.
Well, that verse 9, which says his word remains in us. Well, you open up with Psalms. We open up Psalms 147. He only showed his word to Jacob. So this is talking to the children of Israel that's scattered under the Greeks and Romans. You see us from cover to cover. This is about us.
Yeah. I'm glad you saw it.
So, go ahead. Sorry.
To what everybody just brought out, if you go back to 1 John chapter 2,
I'm gonna just start at verse 18. So this is exactly what you were just bringing out in 3, 8, and 9. So 1 John 2, 18, little children, it is the last time, and as you have heard, that Antichrist shall come. Even now, there are many Antichrists already here, whereby we know it is the last time. It was the last time in his time. They went out from us, but they were not of us. For if they had been of us, they would no doubt have continued with us, but they went out that they might be made manifest that they were not all of us.
So it says, they would no doubt have continued with us.
This is my point.
Go ahead.
But ye have an unction from the Holy One, and you know all things. Who's the set apart one? The Father. I have not written unto you because you know not the truth, but because you know it, and that no lie is of the truth. Who is a liar but he that denieth Yahushua the Christ? He is Antichrist that denieth the Father and the Son. Whosoever denieth the Son, the same have not the Father, but he that acknowledgeth the Son hath the Father also. Let that therefore abide in you, which you have heard from the beginning. If that which ye have heard from the beginning shall remain in you, ye shall also continue in the Son and in the Father. So again, it was put, because if you was in the loins of those ancestors who was at the mountain,
Bring it out.
so it is in you, and that's why he keeps saying, you know already, and he keeps saying, remain with you or in you.
Now, for my Pauline Christians, this makes sense now that I bring this out when you know who you are. When he says, and ye Gentiles, when you do things that's of the law, though you have not the law, he's telling them because you are the ones who were in the loins of the Israelites on Mount Sinai. He ain't telling these foreign Gentiles that you got the law naturally when you do things. No, he knows you got the law in your loins from your ancestors. That's why we got to keep coming out from Christianity, family.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So back to 9. Quick question. So with 9, with what 1 John 3:9, because all of that is great tying into it. That clears it up a lot. I just want to clarify something though. 1 John 3:9, the first part. So whosoever is born of the Most High doth not commit sin. So we're talking about what type of born are we talking about? Because we know what the Christians would do with this. So based on everything we just said, what born are we talking about?
That's a very, very good question.
That's a very good question.
And that goes into what we're gonna speak on later. The second part of this. So just
Come.
hold that, Joe, write it down if you need to, just don't.
All right, my bad. Sorry.
Prayerfully, I'll answer it for you, or the Most High will answer it through His only begotten Son, through me. There's a chain of command going on in here.
Hallelujah.
But let's go to Ezekiel 18 and verse 4. Let's find out how the Most High looks at sin. The book of Ezekiel, chapter 18 and verse 4. And Sister Joyce, if you don't mind, I just want you to read that one verse. Read it. Say it with your chest. Say it with your chest.
All this huffing and buffing back here.
Ezekiel 18,
Shema.
verse 4.
Shema, everyone.
Shema. Behold, all souls are mine. As the soul of the Father, so also the soul of the Son is mine. The soul that sinneth, it shall die.
It shall what?
Die.
Okay. So now that we've established the foundation, truth, the law, sin, death, life and death, now let's look at some examples of not counting the cost, paying the price of the cost, counting the cost, paying in full, and then we're going to get to the second part of what we got going here, and prayerfully it'll answer Brother Gerald's question and clear some things up for him. So we're going to go to the book of Luke, chapter 18. So as we can see, the Most High can't stand sin.
Come.
And what we brought out before, Sheol, or hell, is a manifestation of the Most High's wrath and anger. Because due to our disobedience, his anger was kindled. He said that it's going to burn forever. But he also said that when we repent and turn back, that our sins and curses are going to be taken off of us and put on our enemies that hate us. So let's go into not counting the cost. Luke chapter 18, verse 17 through 25. Marab Baja, if you don't mind.
Book of Luke, chapter 18, verse 17. Verily I say unto you, whosoever shall not receive the kingdom of Yah as a little child shall in no wise enter therein.
Okay, stop right there. Just making it make sense for the young, the spiritually younger crowd, the new people. So when a child at first comes into the world, they don't know anything. And they smiling. They don't know nothing, and they still just happy. Every now and then they'll cry. They got to change their diaper. Their stomach might hurt. But for the most part, they happy. So as children and us as adults, parents, leaders of the children, we have to rightfully teach them. Now, how many children, 6 months to a year, 2 years old, when you tell them something, they'll be sitting there like, okay. How many children actually got to learn the hard way? So if you say, don't do that, it's hot, they're going to do it anyway. Now they get burned and cry. So that's a testament to how practical we are as people. 1, 2, children are humble. And after you tell them in a certain tone, they'll listen to you because now after experience and saying, okay, when I hear this tone, I know I shouldn't do what I want to do. So essentially what King Yahushua or Christ is saying is be humble like a child and be willing to unlearn what you thought you knew and be willing to relearn to become what we have, and I mean the Father and the Son, we have ordained you to be from the beginning. All right, keep going, bro.
Luke chapter 18, verse 18. And a certain ruler asked him, saying, Good master, what shall I do to inherit eternal life?
So he's trying to figure out how to count the cost, right? Okay, keep going.
And Yahushua said unto him, Why callest thou me good? None is good save one, that is Yahweh. Thou knowest the commandments. Do not commit adultery. Do not kill. Do not steal. Do not bear false witness. And honor thy father and thy mother. And he said, All these things I have kept from my youth up. Verse 22.
Here you go.
Now when Yahushua heard these things, he said unto him, Yet lackest thou one thing. Sell all thou hast and distribute unto the poor, and thou shalt have treasures in Shemayim or heaven, and come follow me.
Now, right there, doesn't that tie in to Luke 14? Whoever's not willing to give everything up is not worthy of me. Let's find out what happens.
Book of Luke 18, verse 23, SELAH 23. And when he heard this young ruler, he was very sorrowful, for he was very rich. And when Yahushua saw that he was very sorrowful, he said, How hardly shall they that have riches enter into the kingdom of Yahweh?
So I want y'all to understand, man shall not live by bread alone, but every word that comes out of the mouth of Yah shall man live. Christianity has taught us to get caught up on the 10 Commandments. But not only do we not understand the weight of the 10 Commandments, we think it stops there. When you read this book, would you agree or disagree that the Father will come and visit people and speak to them and give them things outside of the 10 Commandments? So right here, Christ, King Yahushua, is giving this young rich man a commandment. And how did he feel after he received the commandment?
Sorrowful.
He was sorrowful. So do you think he inherited the kingdom?
No.
So go ahead, keep going. Finish that out, Ron.
Verse 25. For it is easier for a camel to go through a needle's eye than for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of Yahweh.
Okay, so this goes back to Sirach chapter 2. If you come to serve Yahweh, prepare your soul for temptation.
Come.
The temptation for this young rich man was too much. He wasn't willing to count the whole cost and pay it in full. So this can come in many different forms. That's why we read earlier that the lust of the eye, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life is pretty much hatred or enmity with the Most High. So we got to be aware of ourselves. The Most High appointed watchers back in the older days. And if you have eyes to see, ears to hear, and a heart to understand in this time, I'm under the understanding and belief that you may very well be a watcher as well. But what should you be watching? Of course, you should be watching what's happening around us. We see wickedness everywhere. But the number one place you need to be watching is in the mirror. Look within. Pay attention to how you feel when you hear your brothers and sisters correcting you about stuff. Pay attention to how you feel or what you're thinking about when you're on your own. Pay attention to what you're doing and saying and how that's going to affect you, affect those around you, and how you're going to be judged based off of it. These things I got to tell myself. Shamaria had to chasing me last night. It will be rectified.
Man in the mirror.
So, like I said, I'm very introspective when it comes to situations that I've been a part of, and whether or not I don't believe that I'm at fault, I always look within and say, what could I have done better? Like I said, I don't really like making excuses for stuff, and I do my best to humble myself if I am wrong and to just make the situation right. But we see this as an example of not counting the cost. Would y'all agree or disagree? Does this make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Okay. Now, let's look at an example of not understanding the cost or paying the price of the cost. Let's go to Judges chapter 11.
The Judges
chapter 11. And I'm going to try to skip around. I don't want to read the whole chapter. I got it written in my notes to read the whole chapter, but I just want to read the main points so people have proper context. Let's start off. Start with 1 through 3.
The book of Judges, or Shapatnam, chapter 11, verse 1. Shema. Now, Yaphatha, the Gileadite, was a mighty man of valor, and he was the son of a harlot, and Gilead begat Yaphatha.
Okay, so what I learned, and Mariah, you can correct me on this, the Gileadites were from the tribe of Manasseh. And Manasseh was the oldest son of Uncle Joseph, who was one of the 12 of Israel. So essentially, these are Manassites. So they are of the tribes of Israel. So you can go ahead, Mariah.
Verse 2. And Gilead's wife bare him sons, and his wife's sons grew up, and they were thrust out, and they thrust out Yaphatha, and said unto him, Thou shalt not inherit in our father's house, for thou art a son of a strange woman. Verse 3. The Yaphatha fled from his brethren and dwelt in the land of Tob or Thawab. And there were gathered vain men unto Yaphatha and went out with him.
Okay, so we're going to kind of skip down, but just to give y'all some context. Essentially, after Jephthah or Yaphatha was kicked out from amongst his brethren, Ammon or Ammon came against Israel. And essentially, it was like an all hands on deck type thing. So they called for Jephthah or Yaphatha because he had became a mighty man. He was out there just doing his thing. So his brothers came back to him and they was like, yo, we need your help. And then he was like, well, y'all kicked me out.
Back then, they
You didn't want me.
All up on me.
Okay, so let's go down to verse 9. And we read 9 through 11.
Book of Judges, chapter 11, verse 9. And Yahweh said unto the elders of Gilead, if ye bring me home again to fight against the children of Ammon, and Yahweh deliver them before me, shall I be your head?
So shall I be your leader?
And the elders of Gilead said unto Yahweh, Yahweh be witness between us, if we do not so according to thy words. The Yahweh went with the elders of Gilead, and the people made him head and captain over them. And Yahweh uttered all his words before Yahweh and Mazapah. Verse 12. And Yahweh sent messengers unto the king of the children of Ammon, saying, what hast thou to do with me, that thou art come against me to fight in my land? And the king of the children of Ammon answered unto the messengers of Yahweh, because Yasharallah or Israel took away my land when they came up out of Egypt, from Arnon even unto Jabbok, and unto Jordan or Jordan. Now therefore restore those lands again peaceably.
Okay, you can stop right there, Marab. We're going to skip. So just to give you more context on what happens next, pretty much this heathen was saying, yeah, y'all took my land from us, so just give it back peaceably and there ain't going to be no problems. But remember, this is our land that the Father promised us. So Jephthah was like, we ain't take your land. We just took our land back.
Right.
So now those are pretty much fighting words. So let's find out what happens. We're going to go down to verse 29, and we're going to read verses 29 through 31. We're going to see not understanding the cost.
The book of Judges or Shaphatyam, chapter 11, verse 29. Then the Ruach of Yahweh came upon Yahweh, and he passed over Gilead and Manasseh, and passed over Mazapah of Gilead. And from Mazapah of Gilead, he passed over unto the children of Ammon. Verse 30. And Yahweh vowed a vow unto Yahweh, and said, if thou shalt without fail deliver the children of Ammon into my hands, then it shall be that whatsoever cometh forth of the doors of my house to meet me, will I return, and when I return in peace from the children of Ammon, shall surely be the Most High's, and I will offer it up for a burnt offering.
Okay, you can just keep going through, Marab. You keep going through.
Verse 32.
Finish the chapter.
So Yahweh passed over unto the children of Ammon to fight against them. And Yahweh delivered them into his hands.
So he won.
And he smote them from Ar even till thou come to Nineveh, even 20 cities, and unto the plain of the vineyards with a very great slaughter. Thus the children of Ammon were subdued before the children of Yasharallah.
Okay, now watch what happens now. Here it goes.
Verse 34. And Yahweh came to Mazapah unto his house, and behold, his daughter came out to meet him.
Now remember what he vowed, y'all.
Come.
He was willing to count the cost, or so he thought. He said, well, if you deliver these Ammonites into my hand, whatsoever comes and greets me first, I'm going to offer up to you as a whole burnt offering.
Come.
And who greeted him first?
His daughter came out to meet him with timbrels and with dances. And because he was thinking, family, remember, we're simple people, don't mean we're slow. We're just base people. Our way of life is not complicated. When you come home, those of you who grew up with animals, what was the first thing if you had animals? What did they do?
They come out and greet you.
They come, your dog will run up to you. So he was thinking in his mind, when I come into my yard, one of my animals is going to come out. So whether it be a goat or a sheep or a cow or a bull, whichever one of my animals come out to meet me, to lick my hand, I'm going to offer that animal to the Most High. But instead of an animal coming out, his daughter comes out.
This is why I said we have to be careful of what we do and say in these times. Go ahead, finish that out, Rob.
Judges 11, verse 34. And Yaphtha came to Amazapah, to his house, and behold, his daughter came out to meet him with timbrels and with dances, and she was his only child. Sound familiar? She was his only child. You see these Hebrewisms? She was his only child.
Only begotten.
Oh, y'all.
Only begotten.
This thing is real. And she was his only child. Besides her, he had neither son nor daughter. And it came to pass, when he saw her, he rent his clothes and said, Alas, my daughter, thou hast brought me very low, and thou art one of them that trouble me. For I have opened my mouth unto the Most High, and I cannot go back. And she said, this is going into Paryam, because we're going to celebrate our women today. Here's a daughter. And she said unto him, My father, my Abba, if thou hast opened thy mouth unto Yahweh, do to me according to that thing which proceed out of thy mouth. For as much as Yahweh have taken vengeance for thee of thine enemies, even of the children of Ammon. And she said unto her father, Let this thing be done for me. Let me alone 2 months, that I may go up and down upon the mountains and bewail my virginity, I and my fellows, my friends. And he said, Go. And he sent her away for 2 months. And she went with her companions, her girlfriends, and bewailed her virginity upon the mountains. And it came to pass at the end of 2 months, she returned unto her father, who did with her according to his vow, which he had vowed. And she knew no man, and it was a custom in Yasharallah, that the daughters of Yasharallah went yearly to lament the daughter of Yaphtha, the Gilead, 4 days in a year.
So she was willing to offer herself manfully. And we see this more often than what you may believe or what we may have been taught according to Christianity. You see it in 2 Maccabees 7. Everybody that's around me consistently knows that that's one of my favorite chapters in the book. We also see it in the book of Esther, Hadassah. She was willing to count the cost. And I'll let it be brought out when the time comes a little bit later. That's why I intentionally did not put it in here right then, just for the sake of time. But you see, because of our words, the Most High will hold you to it. And praise be to Yah that this daughter of Jephthah was willing to follow through and endure to the end. So that's paying the price of the cost. Now let's see the example of counting the cost, paying it in full. So of course, we already know this one. That's King Abijah. He broke his body for us. Going back to Yashaya's teaching, Bayat Lacham, or Bayat Lacham, the house of bread. And the bread that he broke for the Passover, the Pesach, represented his body, which is what he said. And his body was broken, just like that bread, for us to partake in and eat. But let's see another example that I came across. And I said, what? Because the Most High had me start the book over from the beginning. And I didn't know why. But when I started reading it, it came to me quick. So let's go to the book of Exodus, chapter 32. We're going to see how this whole book is about Hamashiach, about Yahweh's salvation.
Hallelujah.
Book of Exodus, chapter 32. Is everybody still with me while we look for it? Verses 30 through 35. Shema.
The book of Exodus, chapter 32.
And just to give everybody context, this is when our people made the golden calf and started wilding out. All right, so go ahead.
The book of Exodus, chapter 32, verse 30. And it came to pass on the morrow that Moshe said unto the people, ye have sinned a great sin, and now I will go up unto the Most High. Peradventure, suppose I shall make it an atonement for your kata, your sin. And Moshe returned unto the Most High and said, oh, this people have sinned a great sin, and have made them gods or Elohim of gold. Verse 32, yet now, if thou wilt forgive Salakia, their sin, their kata, and if not, blot me, I pray thee, out of thy book, which thou hast written. Who wrote the book?
Abba did.
Abba wrote the book. My goodness. Exodus 32 and 32. Can I read that again?
Go ahead.
Yet now, if thou wilt forgive their sin, and if not, blot me, I pray thee, out of your book, which thou hast written. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, whosoever has sinned against me, him I will blot out my book. Therefore now go, lead the people unto the place of which I have spoken unto thee. Behold, my malach shall go before thee. Nevertheless, in the day when I visit, I will visit their sin upon them. And Yahweh plagued the people because they made the calf which Aaron made.
Oh, praises. Hallelujah. Did anybody ever see that before? I mean, you know, we read this book time and time again, but because it's alive, there are certain things that you just don't notice. You don't catch. But we're going to come back and visit this. We're going to transition now into the second part of the exhortation. And like I say, don't believe what I'm saying. Just go back with the information that I presented you today and go and do your own study. Seek the Father and pray in the name of his only begotten Son. But most importantly, obey the commandments, because he ain't going to be talking to you if you're out here just continuing in sin. You got to have a heart to want to do the will of the Father. But the second part of this, I guess if you just want to put a title to it, the Book of Life. The Book of Life. So let's start by going to Revelation 20.
Yeah, because I mean.
Revelation 20. We're reading verses 11 through 15, and then we're going to pass the mantle to Yahshua.
This is the book of Kazawan Hamashiach, chapter 20, verse 11. Shema. And I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before Yah, and the books were opened. And another book was opened, which is the book of Kayah, the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books, which were written in the books. They're not judged by grace. They're not judged by what pastor said. They're not judged by what Rome says. They're judged by things written in the book. According to their works, not according to grace, according to their works. What have you done for me lately? Revelation chapter 20, verse 13. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, our ancestors who were thrown overboard, our ancestors who committed suicide. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and the death and hell were delivered up the dead which were in them. and they were judged, every man according to their works. According to their works. That's how you're being judged. Read on.
Just finish up.
Verse 14. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. And whosoever was not found written in the book, the Sapar of Kayah, the book of life, was cast into the lake of fire.
Okay, now like I said before, appreciate that, Robert. Like I said that before, paying attention to the words that we're reading is important. And I like to provoke thought, and that means that you're thinking about what's being spoken of. So I like to ask specific questions that's going to stimulate that thought process. Because for me, myself personally, that's what got me so hungry and thirsty for the word. Just asking those right questions and being a critical thinker. So just like we were speaking of before, as far as using words, reading words, notice in verse 12, it says, and I saw the dead, small and great, stand before Elohim, or Yah. Now we know that Yah gave all power and authority to the Son. So would I be off to say that this is King Yahweh that's judging?
No.
Okay.
No. I believe so. I believe that's Yahweh Shah.
Okay, because he was given all power and authority, and he's going to put all things under his feet and then give that rulership back to the Father. And then it'll be the end.
That's what the book said.
Okay. So with that, we just read before that the Father said he wrote his book, the book of life. But pay attention to where it says, and the books were open. And another book was open, which is the book of life. So there is a separation between these two demographic of books, right? Okay, so hold on to that thought. Now we're going to stay in Revelation. We're going to go to chapter 3. We're going to go to chapter 3. Yashiyah, if you don't mind, could you read verses 4 through 6?
We are there.
What's that again? I'm sorry. We was sidetracked.
Chapter 3.
No.
What's that? Do you say Hebrews?
Revelation.
Oh,
No.
Revelation. Okay, thanks.
Revelation chapter 3, starting at verse 4. Thou hast a few names, even in Sardis, which have not defiled their garments, and they shall walk with me in white, for they are worthy.
The garments represent the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, the set apart Spirit. And that means because they haven't defiled their garments, sin brings defilement. So because your garments are not defiled, that means you have abstained from sin. Christianity omits it, saying that no man can do this thing all the way. But this just told you, this is the king talking himself, saying that y'all have not sinned. Okay, so keep going. What's he got to say after that, Yashiyah? Verse 5.
Verse 5, he that overcometh, the same shall be clothed in white raiment, and I will not blot his name out of the book of life, but I will confess his name before my Father and before his angels, his Malachites. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Ruach, the Spirit, saith to the assemblies.
Okay, appreciate that, Yashiyah. Now, real quick, this was brought out earlier, and like Abijah always say, y'all be in my notes. Oh man, we just gonna read it real quick. We're gonna go to the book of Jubilees, or Yabam. We're gonna go to chapter 15. And once again, this is not in the conventional 66 King James Bible. This is in the Apocrypha. So just a simple Google search, the book of Jubilees, Jubilees, EES, chapter 15. We're gonna clearly and oh so eloquently state who Hamashiach is speaking to. This is a witness to what they said earlier.
What chapter?
15, Jubilee 15.
Thank you.
Hold on, Herod Jordan's came.
Pair of Jordans.
Oh, yeah, maybe I think the year of the Jubilee or something, maybe.
Oh my goodness.
See, and that right there,
I think
they,
Yeah, all these.
if you type in Jubilees and a pair of Jordans come up, somebody been reading something. Somebody been reading something.
What chapter up?
15. And we just gonna read 28 through 32, y'all.
Yeah.
Pay attention to the words, y'all, because another misinformed statement that we love to hear in Christianity is we all God's children. God love everybody. We all spiritual Israel, but we're in this physical, practical flesh, right? And the blood separates us, right? Your DNA, your substance.
And also bone structure.
Bone structure. We're gonna get into it.
Yeah, phenotype.
Yeah, we're gonna get into it. 28 through 32 of Jubilees 15.
So Jubilees, chapter 15, starting at verse 28. Y'all there?
Come on.
All right, cool. So 28, and do you command the children of Yasharallah, Israel, and let them observe the sign of this covenant for their generations as an eternal ordinance.
Now, how long is eternal?
Forever.
Oh, okay, keep going, Yash.
And they will not be rooted out of the land.
Mm-hmm.
For the command is ordained for a covenant that they should observe it forever among all the children of Yasharallah.
The children of the world.
Children of Yasharallah, Israel.
Okay.
For Ishmael and his sons and his brothers and Esau, Yahweh did not cause to approach him. And he chose them not because they are the children of Abraham, because he knew them. But he chose Yasharallah, Israel, to be his people.
Now we understand that Ishmael and Esau are still alive today. But Israel are the ones that the Most High God chose. Now let's look at this practically, y'all. If you are the enemy and you knew this information, because reality check, everybody in the earth knows who Israel is, except Israel. Now, seeing as though they all know this, and if you want to reference, go to Psalm 83 and 3, verses 3 through 5, and you'll see it for yourself. The entire world has conspired against one people group to continue to keep them in oppression through sin. If you are the enemy and you knew this promise right here that you ain't got nothing to do with it, and you won't rule, and that this other people will rule, and you've been oppressing them and afflicting them all these generations, why would you tell them the truth to rise against you and take their spot back?
And their United Nations, that group of United Nations, all the nations of the world are represented there, except who? Us. We don't have no representation in the UN.
We don't have any power. We don't have any, we have influence because we influence the world, but we influence the world through sin. And that's what we have been indoctrinated mentally to do. Okay, does that make sense for everybody?
Yes.
All right. All right, go ahead, Josh. Go ahead.
Verse 31, and he sanctified it and gathered it from among all the children of men. For there are many nations and many peoples, and all are his, and over all has he placed the spirits in authority to lead them astray from him.
Say that again, Yashia.
And he has placed spirits, in authority to lead them astray from him.
Okay, so what this is saying is that Yah has appointed spirits specifically to these nations to lead them astray from him. But let's find out about Israel in verse 32.
But over Israel, Yasharallah, he did not appoint any angel or spirit, for he alone is their ruler, and he will preserve them and require them at the hand of his angels and his spirits, and at the hand of all his powers, in order that he may preserve them and bless them, and that they may be his and he may be theirs from now on and forever.
This is why King Yahushua continuously said, I come not in my own name. These works and words that I'm speaking and doing, it ain't from me. It's from the Father. Me and him are one. We are on the same page. Appreciate that, Yashua. So now, let's transition. Well, we staying on the same topic, but prayerfully, as I continue to finish this out, people start to recognize and see what the Most High has put on me through the past year or so. And shout out to Rebirth of a Nation, because I heard a piece of this about a year and a half ago. And the Most High put it back on my spirit a few weeks ago. And Abishai, myself, Antoine, we talked about it a little bit, but we didn't talk about it to this extent. So I just want to let them know, all the Rebirth, the entire tribe, wherever you are, I love you all. And I praise the Most High in the name of Yahushua for the work that y'all have done. Y'all obedience to help groom myself and all others in righteousness. So with that, let's go to Jeremiah or Yeremiah chapter 1. This is probably, this whole point I'm about to make is also destroying the mindset of Christianity. Like I said, when you're in a tough spot or you're facing any type of adversity, our first reaction to it is to think we're doing something wrong. At the same time, Christianity makes you think that you have to work your way back into heaven. Now, of course, we got to repent, but I'm going to show you something. Jeremiah chapter 1, verses 4 and 5. Yashua, please.
Come on. Then the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee, and before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nation. So this is the Most High speaking to Jeremiah or Yeremiah. And he's saying pretty much, before your mom knew you, before you came into this world, I knew you. Okay? We're going to continue. We're going to continue because it all ties in together. And I'm just going to show y'all what the Most High told me. We're going to go to the book of Psalms, verse 139. And I'm about to share this screen because now is the time to do so. Now in the Septuagint, it reads a lot better. And it's only just a quick couple of words that make the difference. But it ties into this right here. Is the screen shared more? Okay.
What verse was that?
It's Psalm 139, and your Septuagint is Psalm 138. In the Greek Septuagint is Psalm 138. In your standard KJV, it is Psalm 139. We're almost done, y'all. We have 6 more books, but they're really quick, so we're almost done.
What's 6 more books? Verses or books?
Well, 3 of them are Psalm, and then, 3 of them are,
I'm joking.
yeah.
I'm here all day.
Okay. Book of Psalm 139, Standard KJV, 138 in the Septuagint. And Shamar, if you can read in the KJV, and then Yashiyah reading the Septuagint.
How does it start off?
So we're going to start in verse 16. Both of the verses should match.
What's the top of the? I'm trying to match it up in mine. In the Britain, the verses are not like stacked. They just like a paragraph with verses.
Okay, so in the KJV, it starts verse 16. Thine eyes did see my substance.
And the top of the chapter, how does the top of the chapter start?
Now, in the top of the chapter, it starts, "O Yahweh, thou hast searched me."
Search and know me.
Okay, I think I got it.
Okay,
Got it.
verse,
Oh, I got it. Thank you. Wow.
and actually, we're gonna back up. We're gonna start at 15, verse 15. Sorry, verse 15.
Yeah, I got 15 through 16 highlighted already.
Yeah. So Shamar is going to read out of the Standard KJV verses 15 and 16 of Psalm 139, and then in the Septuagint, Yashiyah is going to read the same thing. And we're going to go into the breakdown of this word. Okay. Shemayo, let it rip, Shamar.
My substance was not hid from thee when I was made in secret and curiously wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. Thine eyes did see my substance, yet being unperfect. And in thy book,
Where?
In thy book,
Okay.
all my members were written, which in continuance were fashioned, when as yet there was none of them.
Okay, so we have 3 different times, 4 really, where we've read in this something about this book. We saw it in Exodus with Uncle Masha or Moses. We saw it in Revelation. We see it here. We saw it also in Revelation 3, Revelation 20 and Revelation 3. Okay, now Yashiyah, if you could you please read that same thing from the Septuagint?
So coming from the Septuagint, Psalms 138 in here, but 139, regular standard Bible at verse 15. My bones, which thou madest in secret, were not hidden from thee,
okay,
nor my substance in the lowest parts of the earth. Thine eyes saw my unwrought substance, and all men shall be written in thy book.
Okay.
They shall be formed by day, though there should for a time be no one among them.
Okay, so notice a couple things that might be a little bit different from the Septuagint compared to the KJV. Notice in the Septuagint it says, and all men shall be written in thy book. That's one. And it says that we were made in the lower parts of the earth, as you know, Father Adama, that means earth. Am I correct on that? We were made out of the clay of the earth. So now we're going to stay in this same chapter, and we're going to do the same thing with verses 23 and 24. And here's where the breakdown of the word substance comes into play. So tomorrow we're going to read verses 23 and 24 for the new people. And then for the more seasoned, we're going to read the Septuagint.
Same chapters.
Same chapter.
For they speak against thee wickedly, and thine enemies take thy name in vain. Do not I hate them, O Yahweh, that hate.
Wait a
What
minute.
chapter are you on?
Chapter 139.
139,
Yeah,
23.
verse 23.
I'm reading all the highlights. I got.
Doing what you want to do. Doing what you want to do.
Doing what I want to do.
skip that Israel. Read this whole lesson.
Talking about hating enemies.
I got excited. They can't go to war.
23, search me, O Yahweh, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts, and see if there be any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting.
Okay. Okay. And I probably see where I'm already going with it. So Yashiya, if you could be so kind as to read those same two verses, 23 and 24 out of Septuagint.
Starting at verse 23, prove me, O Yah, and know my heart. Examine me and know my path.
Okay.
And see if there is any way of iniquity in me, and lead me in an everlasting way.
Okay. So now that brings us to this word that y'all see on the screen, Itazam. Itazam. Can everybody see this imagery clear enough?
Yes.
So you see the characters, it has an eye, it looks like a man on his side, and it also has like pretty much an M, which is where these pagans and heathens got this M from. So the I, as Abadza brought out earlier, it can represent to continue. It also can mean eternity. The Taza could mean a man on his side, but as Shamar emphasized time and time again, these characters, each character can have multiple meanings. So Taza can also mean to hunt. It can also mean a trail. It can also mean a path. So the Ma, or the one that looks like a wave or an M, that means the blood. It also can mean water. And we know water, if there's enough of it, it can mean power, like a tidal wave. There's not too much that can stand after the force of a tidal wave hits it. So when I was reading this out of the Septuagint, and I parsed out the word, I got the eternal source of power.
My substance is the eternal source of power.
That's why King Dawid or David said, my substance was not hid from thee. What does substance mean? Your being, your essence, what makes you, you.
Your power.
Your power. What makes you. Now we kept saying that these seeds remaineth in those who are of Yah.
Come on,
And we also said that those whose names were found written in the book. Okay? So where am I going with this? Does anybody want to take an educated guess? Think about the context of what we're talking about, the book of life.
We already in the book.
Say that again.
We already in the book.
It's based upon your actions, whether you're going to stay in that book or not.
That's why Christ said, he who endures unto the end, the same shall be what?
Saved.
Yahweh's salvation. Who endures until the end, because your name, Yasher Allah, is already written in the book. So the second part of this, the book of life, I have a colon and it says, is it also written of you? Because time and time again, and for those who are new, this might be your first time hearing this, I always tell those who I'm talking to put yourself in the book. Put yourself on both sides. Put yourself in the side of Esau, because there are Israelites who are functioning in the spirit of Esau. There are Israelites who are not enduring unto the end. There are those who get weary in well-doing and quit. But there are those who wake up to eternal life. There are also those who are willing to run the race with patience and suffer all things, because we are not greater than our master, King Yahushua.
So I made a bold statement saying that we already written in the book. Let's go over a couple more precepts and finish this portion to validate what I just said. We're going to stay in the book of Psalms. We're going to go to Psalm 69. Gerald, do you remember your question?
I do.
Say it one more time so I can stay on track. Hopefully, prayerfully, like I said, I won't.
So yeah, that verse in 1 John 3, stressing 19, you know, when it says those who are born, you know, in the spirit, you know, was talking about, well, what born are we talking about here? Because we know how Christianity would flip it.
After we go over this precept, I'm just going to make it simple and plain. We'll read Psalm 69. We'll read it here and in the Septuagint. And we're going to read verses 27 and 28. Did that breakdown make sense to anybody?
Calm.
That make sense to them?
Calm. That's calm.
So Sister Joyce, Psalm 69, if you could just read verses 27 and 28. And then Yashia is going to read the same thing in the Septuagint.
Psalm 69. Psalm 69, verse 27. Add iniquity unto their iniquity, and let them not come into thy righteousness.
So King Dawad is praying against his enemies, which is what we should be doing in this time. I'm gonna give it to y'all straight. If y'all want salvation, somebody gonna have to die.
Calm.
Would y'all agree or disagree?
Calm.
Because for years, all we were trying to do was live. And they were killing us. They still doing it to this day. So do y'all think realistically, as a nation, these people are gonna be like, you know what? We messed up. You think they really gonna be like Nineveh in the book of Jonah and fast and turn back? No, because that would make Yahweh a liar. Okay.
Those people in Nineveh were Israelites.
Exactly. That's exactly the point. So, Sister Joyce, if you don't mind, verse 28.
Verse 28, let them be blotted out of the book of the living, and not be written with the righteous.
Read that part again.
Let them be blotted out of the book of the living, and not be written with the righteous.
Okay. Yashia, if you won't mind, we're going to go to the same thing.
This is Psalm 68, according to the Septuagint. The Standard Bible is Psalm 69 at verse 27. Add, we dare everybody who has the Septuagint.
To Psalm 69.
It's 68 in the
68.
Septuagint.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, at verse 27.
Pay attention to the words, y'all.
Add iniquity to their iniquity, and let them not come into thy righteousness.
Y'all see the difference right there? Okay, keep going.
Let them be blotted out of the book of the living, and let them not be written with the righteous.
So we read earlier in Jubilees where Yabalim that the Most High appointed spirits over the other nations to be led astray. King David is praying to the Father, let them not return back to your righteousness, because he also said before that all men were written in the book. Okay. And it also said that King David was after Yahweh's own heart. So somebody lying. We all God's people.
His enemies, remember King David's enemies was Saul and the Israelites who said, I'm going to support Saul. So to my Christian brothers and sisters, these are not all God's children that King David is praying against. He's praying against the Israelites who sided with Saul to kill him. So he's praying, let these Israelites be blotted out your book.
So how much more those who are not even in the covenant?
I have a quick precept to go along with what you just said and to go along with Jubilees. What was right out of Jubilees is Deuteronomy 32 at verse 8, coming out of the KJV.
Hold on.
Deuteronomy what again?
32
32.
at verse 8. Starting at verse 8 out of the King James.
Go ahead, y'all.
When the Most High divided the nations their inheritance, and when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the children of Yasharallah. For Yahweh's portion is the people, Yahweh is the lot of his inheritance. So right there, he already made that distinction between them and between us, and made it clear and crystal that we are his portion, we are his inheritance.
So it's just precept on top of precept out here. Okay. So is there anybody got anything else before we continue?
Verse 36 and 37 is real good.
Go ahead, bring it up.
It just says, for the Most High,
And this is the same chapter?
Psalms 68 that he was in the
In the
Septuagint.
Septuagint.
And it says, for the Most High will save Zion, and the cities of Judah will be restored, and they will inhabit there, and they will inherit it, and the seed of his servants will possess it, and the ones loving his name will dwell in it. I didn't even have that one marked until now, but again, it's showing you that the Most High will save Zion, and the cities of Judah will be restored. And you know, this has got to be speaking of future, because David, he writing this, he in Zion, correct? And then it says the seed of his servants will possess it. Who are the seeds and who are the servants? So it's just, and we're the seed of the servants. So it's just like, wow, like it's just everywhere.
Okay.
Got you. Good stuff, Shalakia. Yeah. So we originally read Revelation chapter 20, and we stressed the books. But we've been focused on the book at this point. So I'm expecting, I guess, your next few verses to kind of bring in the plural side of the books.
Let's go to Psalm 109, and then I'll bring that out. That's a very good question. That's the right question. That's the right question. And you don't need to Septuagint for this. Just
We don't worry.
no, we do not. This correlates pretty well with the standard KJV. But it's still good if y'all want to go back behind me and look, because y'all might find something that I didn't. Psalms 109. We're going to read verses 1 and 2, and then we're going to skip down to 13 and 14. So, Sister Joyce, if you can read verses 1 and 2.
Psalms 109, verse 1. Hold not thy peace, O Yahweh, of my praise. Verse 2. For the mouth of the wicked and the mouth of the deceitful are opened against me. And they speak, they have spoken against me with a lying tongue.
Okay, now skip down, read verses 13 and 14. Now this is King Dawud, or King David, praying to the Father. Let's see what he's praying to the Father to say and do and execute.
Verse 13, let his posterity be cut off.
Now, I don't want to get too graphic, but your posterity is your seed. That's your man part, your posterity. And King David is praying to the Father that his man part, posterity, be cut off. Keep going.
And in the generation following, let their name be blotted out.
Be what?
Blotted out.
Okay, keep going, 14.
Let the iniquity of his fathers be remembered with Yahweh, and let not the sin of his mother be blotted out.
Okay, so to make it simple and plain, what Revelation 20 is saying, Gerald, and this is just me, because y'all might find something at a later time. The books that are opened are those who strayed away from the path and started writing their own will. You started doing what you wanted to do, because those who come in the book aren't going to go to the left or to the right, are they? They're going to copy the book of life. So these other books that are good for nothing, what do you usually do to a book that you don't need? Where do you throw it? What were they doing with these books?
Book burnings.
There was book burning.
Lake of fire. And also it could be, so we got a couple of things to look at with the plural books in Revelation.
Mm-hmm.
We can never discount that these are not the original scrolls.
Right.
You can never discount that.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be that plural books with an S is adulteration.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be we all have individual books because we all were given or blessed with individual life.
And that's exactly what my point was. Every single one of us has a book. Every single one of us has a book. And those things were judged. So the book of life is sitting here, and our book is sitting here. And if we copy the book of life, it'll line up
with the book of life.
And whatever don't line up is getting tossed into the lake of fire. So Abijah literally brought out,
if your book, your life don't line up with the Torah, the real book of life, your book, your life, your soul, your napash is going to be in the lake of fire.
Exactly. And we ain't talking about plagiarizing, because plagiarism is when you write something and you say that you created the word.
This is how copy,
because it still applies here. We don't take glory unto ourselves. The sources.
We give you witnesses.
We give you receipts, the citations.
This is a powerful class, and we're trying to imitate the Most High via Hamashiach. So everything we're doing, that's why this is so heavy, because like you said, woe to those who lost patience. How many days we lose patience, babe? I'm tired of these devils. I want to get out of here. How many times we struggle to forgive one another? A lot. This class is heavy, man. This class is heavy.
Like I said, I wanted to make it simple enough for a child or somebody who's new to the walk to understand, but it's just one of those introspective, heavy things. Like I told some of y'all, this ain't gonna be one of those, oh, we got the glory.
So yeah, super heavy class. But again, it leads to another question for me. And what you saying? Because I'm waiting for you to go there. So let me just throw this out, because I don't know if this is in your last few scriptures. Revelations 21:27. Where does that fit with this book, singular book? In the sense that if all of the plural books is all of these other things that's produced and given to us, and then you ain't even live right according to that you had, so they can be judged out of that. But where do we put Revelations 21:27?
There shall in no wise enter into anything that defileth, neither whatsoever worketh abomination or maketh a lie, but they which are written in the Lamb's book of life. So what can you specify your question?
So we've been stressing the whole time how it's Abba Yah's book. All the way through Torah, we've been establishing how that book seemed to be already been there before these righteous men came, and some even strayed away and got out the book. And David saying, don't even let them return. Don't even let their name get put back in, whatever. So, but yet we know that's Abba Yah's book. How are we to take the fact that Revelations 21:27 is saying that the Lamb has a book?
That's also the right question. So that transitions into what we're about to go to next. But first, hold on to that question. Don't forget that, Gerald. Let's go to 2 Peter chapter 2.
This is the great Berean study. This is how we study. Where we going out?
2 Peter chapter 2. My Sister Joyce, if you can read verses 9 through 18.
Verse 9. And Yahweh knoweth how to deliver the godly out of temptations, and to reserve the unjust unto the day of judgment to be punished.
Okay.
But chiefly them that walk after the flesh in the lust of uncleanliness, and despise government. Presumptuous are they, self-willed.
Self-willed, okay.
They are not afraid to speak evil of dignities. Whereas angels, which are greater in power and might, bring not railing accusations against them before Yahweh. But these, as natural brute beasts, made to be taken and destroyed, speak evil of the things that they understand not, and shall utterly perish in their own corruption.
Their own corruption, okay.
And shall receive the reward of unrighteousness.
That word reward. Now people hear that, they think that's good, but what's the reward of the unrighteous?
The lake of fire.
The lake of fire.
And shall
Yeah, you can go ahead.
And shall receive the reward of unrighteousness, as they that count it pleasure to riot in the daytime. Spots they are and blemishes.
What are they?
Spots they are and blemishes.
So they the ones who are getting blotted, because they're already walking blots.
What verse was that?
13.
13. So they're sporting themselves, rioting in the daytime. Now, King Yahushua said that there are 12 hours in a day, but he told us that darkness is coming. We already saw the parallel earlier. While in the daytime, you should be filled with the Most High Spirit, that you may shine in the darkness. But if you rioted in the daytime and you aren't putting in that work to be filled with the light, this is your reward. Okay? Verse 14, Joyce, just read verse 14.
Having eyes full of adultery.
Excuse me. Go back up to 13. Just read 13 again.
And shall receive the reward of unrighteousness, as they that count it pleasure to riot in the daytime. Spots they are and blemishes, sporting themselves with their own deceiving while they feast with you.
Okay.
Having eyes full of adultery, and that cannot cease from sin.
Cannot what?
Cease from sin.
So just like the godly cannot sin, these spots and blemishes who committeth, who work towards sin, cannot cease from it. They done became a whole slave to that thing. Okay.
Beguiling unstable souls, and heart they have exercised with covetous practices, cursed children.
What kind of children are they?
Cursed children.
Cursed children. Okay.
Which have forsaken the right way and are gone astray, following the way of Balaam, the son of Bosar, who loved the wages of unrighteousness, but was rebuked for his iniquity. The dumb ass speaking with man's voice forbade the madness of the prophet. These are wells without water, clouds that are carried with the tempest, to whom the midst of darkness is reserved forever.
That's their reward. That's their wages of unrighteousness. The midst of darkness forever. Verse 18.
Verse 18, for when they speak great swelling words of vanity, they allure through the lust of the flesh, through much wantonness, those that were clean escaped from them who live in error.
Those who were clean escaped from them who live in error. How do you escape? You come back to the covenant, you seek the book of life. Okay? Now I want to back up a little bit because I ain't forgot about you, Gerald, because we're going to get to it. I want to back up and I want to read verse 14 again. This is when, as soon as you read it, Joyce, I immediately thought Christianity. Verse 14, having eyes full of adultery, and that cannot cease from sin, beguiling or tricking unstable souls. The law done away with except tithing. Some of these wicked pastors are saying you don't need the commandments. You don't need to start with the Big Ten. I think most of us in here know what I'm referring to. But this whole book is talking about the wages and rewards of those who turn away from the commandments. Maybe when you think about it, that the people that are speaking about not keeping the commandments are the cursed children that this chapter is speaking of. So to get back on point, I just wanted y'all to see the second spectrum. We already saw the godly, those who can't sin. And we just saw the cursed children who can't cease from sin. So now we're going to finish this thing off. We're going to go to John 14. And we've been reading this one a lot. Really going to pay attention to the words. Pay attention to the words, these last 2 precepts. Kevin, if you don't mind reading these for me. King Howard was long suffering. He spoke gentle with us who was willing to learn. So we're going to have the gentle giant finish it. So John chapter 14, we're going to read verses 15 through 20.
Shema.
Shema.
Go ahead, Kevin.
If ye love me, guard my commandments. And I will pray the Father, and he shall give you another comforter, that he may abide with you forever.
Okay.
Even the Ruach and that Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it sees him not, neither knows him, but ye know him, for he dwells within you and shall be in you. I will not leave you comfortless. I will come to you. Yet a little while, and the world sees me no more. But ye see me. Because I live, ye shall live also. At that day, ye shall know what I am in my Father, and ye in me, and I in you.
Okay, so your question, Gerald, was, we see that the Father had a book, but what is this Lamb's book of life? Like I said before, like we already confirmed, King Yehoshua came in the form of this corruptible flesh, so he also has a book. But whose book do you think he mimicked? The Father's, the Lamb's book of life. So finishing this off before, and then I'll let Shamar, because you go ahead, Shamar, before we finish it off.
Are you answering his question still?
Go ahead.
To answer also a part of that question, when you go to Revelation 5.
Babe, can you turn there that marker right there, please?
Which one?
See that paper right there? Just flip all those pages. Where are we at?
You said Revelations.
Well, no, I started counting all the 7 seals.
You can bring it out, because I could.
No, go ahead. That's
Shamar.
Man, listen, come on, y'all.
But it says the scroll, well, I'm reading the subtitle, but it says Revelation 5:1, and I saw in the right hand of him that sat on the throne a book written, and on the backside sealed with 7 seals. And I saw a strong Malachim, or a strong Malach, proclaiming with a loud voice, who is worthy to open the book and to loose the seals thereof? And no man in the Shemayim, nor on the earth, Arataza, neither under the earth, that's a whole nother subject, was able to open the book, neither look thereon. And I wept much, because no man was found worthy to open and read the book. And it says, and one of the elders said unto me, weep not. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, have prevailed to open the book and loosen the seals thereof. So, and I'm not going to keep going on with Marab if he want to bring something out about it. But again, the book is established in the Shemayim, or in the heavens, from the beginning, but the Lion of the tribe of Judah has the authority to open and unseal the books. And again, that's why he is the one proclaiming the judgment. Now I'm gonna show, I have possibly something else about this, but I want to let Moran check it out first.
What was the initial verse?
Revelation 20.
Revelations 20, it was Revelations 20, 19? What was?
Did you say 21 and 27?
21 and 27 is the one that says the Lamb's verse. Yeah, Revelation 21, 27.
Right.
But
Man.
you did answer the question. I mean, that I think that's it right there. I mean, Revelation 5 is it, and I forgot that. But yeah, you answered it. I'm gonna say what else I gotta say when you finish.
I don't want to. I told you I said yeah. I don't want to give you young men too much praise and get y'all out there with your own assembly and whatnot. No. But I'm feeling comfortable. Me and wife can go on vacation for a couple of weeks and have y'all teach, because y'all teaching, y'all are putting together the precepts, y'all are obeying the Most High, and y'all giving witnesses. Because soon Gerald asked that question, I was like, I know where the answer is at. I was like, and boom, Revelation 5 came. So I was reading it just to double check. And then, so Gerald, you can refresh Revelation 5, and then we can never forget our culture. We are Israelites. We are Asians, Orientals. And in our culture, just because you're calling something mine, if our father is alive, it's really my father's. So if my neighbor comes to my house to borrow my shovel, but my daddy is alive, well, my daddy gave me life. My daddy brought me up. My daddy put me through school. So you really borrowed my father's shovel. So even though it says the Lamb's book, is the Most High dead? No. So the Lamb owns nothing. Come on, y'all.
So,
but because all authority and everything was given to the Lamb by the Father, and he works in the will of his Father, not of his own will, then you can say that it's the Lamb book, because we know he's the one that's doing the judging, and he's the one worthy enough to open it. Like these faithful ones of old knew a book existed, and they're out of faith saying, hey, if I fall short, take me out of your book. Let your enemies that strayed, don't even let them make it back to the book. But the only person that really know who in the book is the one who opened it. So when it's all said and done in Revelations, that's why he's being spoken of. That's how I sum it all out. But yeah, it's clear.
Also, the Father wrote the book, but he limited himself because the Father never took on his flesh. So we don't want y'all to judge us, family. If y'all judge us,
we done.
He knows nothing. Y'all don't know what it's like to be weak in the mind. He knows nothing about that. So he had to give, that's Abishai's verse. Abishai's verse, 1 Corinthians 15:24. He had to give everything to the Son. The Son knows what it's like to be around women, to be around riots.
The second witness.
So we don't want y'all to judge us. If y'all judging us, we about to go out here and get high tonight. It's over. He has no, y'all has one speed, kill him. He disobeyed, kill him. Hamasha is the one with compassion. Father, I've been down there. It's filthy down there.
Remember what he said in Ezekiel 18:4. If that soul sin, it shall die. Go ahead, Amshad.
Like to lay me back on everybody, Hamashiach is a faithful and true witness. You know what I'm saying? Like he is the one that made it through without blemish, without spot, that walked this walk and did what he was supposed to do, kept the commandments and fulfilled his calling. You know what I'm saying? So he is the only one that is fitting to open up the book and to open up the seal. You know what I'm saying?
That reminds me of a song that Reverse had sung about a year or so ago, and I never forgot it. It was one of the sisters over there. And it was so beautiful. I don't want to butcher it, but just the first two parts, he said, he is worthy to take the book and open the seals thereof. I don't know anymore, but that one song was so beautiful to me. I was at work listening to it, and it brought me to tears.
You gotta find that for us, Bob.
It was, oh man, Rebirth, if y'all hear this, y'all help me out. Send us a link. But anyway, to help bring this thing home, let's go to the very last precept, John chapter 15, Kevin. Very last precept. Appreciate y'all for sticking in there. And I pray this was edifying to somebody.
It was edifying to me.
So John chapter 15, and we're going to read verses 5 through 7. And before you do, Gerald, man, it's so much information and there's so much that we keeping track of. This is a part of enduring, fighting that good fight, because it's real easy to just forget some of the things that are said in one book or in another book. You might go and read something or see a video about one of these agendas. And on top of all of this, you still have to live life. So, that's why the Most High carved out a day to come and be refreshed, to come and be edified and remember, Zakar, to remember these words. So verses 5 through 7, Kevin, of John chapter 15.
Where we at?
John chapter 15, verses 5 through 7. And once again, just paying attention to the words. It's a reason why the Father and King Yahushua say what they say. And of course, we're just doing our best with the adulterated version of what we got from our oppressors. But just seeing the receipts, all of this stuff lines up. And it was just a sweet cherry on top to, close this thing out.
Yeah, it's something to that.
So verses 5 through 7, John 15.
John 5:15.
15 verse 5.
15 verse 5. I am the vine, ye are the netzarim,
The branches.
He that abides in me, and I in him, the same brings forth much fruit. For without me, you can do nothing.
So he's saying, if you abide in me and I in you, you're going to bring forth fruit. What type of fruit? Righteous fruit. Because we know he's the righteous vine. Okay, keep going. Verse 6.
If a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch and is withered. And men gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. Into the fire, and they are burned.
Okay, now here's the cherry on top right here, Gerald. Verse 7.
If ye abide in me, and my words abide in you.
In my what?
And my words abide in you.
The book of life. The words of that book of life that I open, if they abide in you, finish it out.
Ye shall ask what ye will, and it shall be done unto you.
So to close this thing out, I pray that everyone got it. When I've been saying, put yourself in the book, I didn't even really know what I was saying. But the Most High revealed to me these things, and in obedience, keeping the laws with the testimony of Yahushua, we got to have the faith and action that goes behind what we say and do. Because if we want to inherit the kingdom, we got to believe that this book is also written to us. Now, not in a plagiarizing manner, not taking glory for ourselves. Like all this wisdom and understanding just came from us these long nights reading the book and breaking it down. Nah, that's the wisdom from the Shemayim, from the heaven that was already in you that the Father unlocked because of your obedience. Because we just read in the chapter before, if you love me, keep my commandments, and I will pray the Father send you another comforter, the Holy Spirit. It's going to bring you out of that evil, wicked spirit where you was worshiping the beast, where you was going to church on Sunday. You don't even know what church really represent. You was having Christmas trees in your house. You don't know what those really represent. You just doing them because your family been doing them for years. I'm going to send you another comforter. I'm going to send you the set apart spirit that was always with you. But when you made the decision in your mind to come back, now it's going to be unlocked unto you. And if you can endure until the end, your name, which was written in the book, will remain and not be blotted out. So with that, I give all praise, honor, and glory to the Father, Yahweh, in the name of his only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, for he is good, his mercy endures forever, and I yield.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. That was good stuff. Shalakia. So So to make sure I understand, I just got to say it back and then tell me that I gathered properly. So at the moment, we're saying that, because when you say the book of life, I always envision a book that lists all of the names of the righteous people. But when we said that books plural, understanding that this book that Masha was talking about, Moses and all of them, David, you know, even down to what we just broke down, the book of life of the Lamb being the same as Abba Yah's book. When we say plural, we're talking about these other books that man has put together, and he's using those same books to judge these unrighteous people in the sense that you didn't even live righteously according to what you had. So this is why you're being condemned. Or like, am I on the right track? Because I'm trying to figure out, is the book the Torah? Is he gonna open the Torah and say you're deemed as righteous because you lived according to this, according to truth, versus the person who didn't live according to Torah? I'm gonna use your book and show you that you still fell short. Like, help me understand that.
That's an interesting point. Like Marah always says, the way I looked at it was it's a Hebraism, because every person has a book. Just like that phrase goes, everybody can write a book about their life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But since we know the Most High doesn't change, and that King Yahushai is the same forever, and him and the Father are one, they on one accord. Those who stray away from the path, their book, their power, because remember the precepts when he was talking about in Psalm, your substance, the power, the path, the itazam, the itazam. So when you look at that eternal source of power, ultimately, the way I look at it is ultimately just two books, the book of life and the book of death. And those who don't keep the commandments with the testimony, your individual book is going to fall in one of those two categories. Now, you know, it don't say anything about the book of death in the scroll, but we know that your name going to be blotted out of the book of life if you don't keep these words in this book. So ultimately, like I said, and I'll let Shamar or anybody else who wants to add on to what I'm about to say, your life is being recorded in books. And if it lines up with the book of life, then you will inherit the kingdom. But if it does not, and you start doing things that cause the angels to write something else because they're keeping a record of everything we do, then it's going to be cast into the lake of fire because it doesn't line up with the original book, if that makes sense.
Makes sense. That makes sense. Anybody else got something to add to that before I present the other point I was holding to talk through?
That Revelation 12 was the greatest witness. I was asking Mr. Precepts about what Narayah just said. The angels are recording our deeds, and I wanted to find something that the Christians could accept because it's stated plainly in the book of Enoch.
And in the Revelation of Paul, if you subscribe to
right. That. But let's go to Revelations 20 and 12, because this is going to be the strongest witness for why we would get multiple books.
You said Revelation 20 and 12?
20 and 12. I think that's the strongest witness to support what you bring out. This is Revelation 20 and 12.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it says, and I saw the dead, small and great, stand before Yah, and the books were opened. So we see there's multiple people, small and great. Mm-hmm. So there's multiple people, and books were opened. So using textual criticism, it seems like these books are for these multiple people.
Like an account of your life.
Account of a ledger. Mm-hmm. And another book was opened, which is what Narayah was talking about, the book, the Sapar of Kayah. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works.
Because just like you said, Gerald, the Father has a book, and it seemed like there's the Lamb's book of life. But just understanding and remembering they're one.
Right.
King Yahushua does have a book because he was in this flesh, but it line for line matches up to the Father.
Yeah, his book matches mirrors
100%. He the only one who's worthy to go back to the Father.
Yeah, 12 answers that he right. 20, Revelation 20:12 answers, because it clearly says that, I mean, if you're in the book of life, you're deemed as righteous. Right. And the dead that are being judged according to their works, they're judged based off of what's in the books. So that's the contrast right there. If you're in the book of life, it seems as the other book don't matter to you.
And also, just another Hebrewism and a cultural text came to me. Our ancestors, the prophets, Masha, they're not dead. Righteous Israelites don't die. They're what? Sleep. So these dead, small, and great, these are unrighteous people, meaning you knew you was an Israelite, you knew the Torah was in effect. So our generation, like Big Mama who passed on, that's a deeper conversation. But yeah, Revelation 20 and 12 is the best support we got for why we have multiple books.
And that's why even what Yashaya brought out earlier, strive for the truth even unto death, and Yahweh shall fight for you. That's mercy. Just because what does it mean to strive? Does that mean you're going to always get it right? But when you're striving for something, that means you're fighting for it. Go ahead, Yashia.
I think this is the precept of I was looking for in Ezekiel chapter 9 at verse 3 and 4.
Say it again, Yashia.
Ezekiel chapter 9, 3 and 4.
Go ahead.
Come on.
And the glory of the Elohim of Yasharallah of Israel was gone up from the cherub whereupon he was, and to the threshold of the house. He called to the man clothed in linen, which had the writer's ink borne by his side. And Yahweh said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof.
No, that wasn't one out. That's a good one, but it may be an apocrypha where the angels are recording our deeds. That's why the apostle said, be mindful of your conversations. Have your conversations chaste, because the Malachim are recording what you say. That's why it says, men of Israel, we should be not even jokers. Like, I'm just playing. No, we're grave men. So there's a time to relax, but that's that time for us to relax when we're back in Zion around all righteous people. Right now, it's time for us to be grave men. You know, you want some pork? Now I gotta tolerate you joking me about pork. You know, so it's that Revelation 20 and 12 is the closest we're going to get. There's multiple books because each one of our lives have come with a book. Like you mothers buy your children baby books. When y'all have your children, we all got a spiritual baby book. It belongs to the Most High, but Yahushua is going to be the one judging us. We want him to judge us.
Does anybody else have any questions, comments, concerns?
Got you. Shalakia. Not that I'm trying to like hog, but yeah, I said I was gonna follow with the second one I wanted to talk through that I've been holding. So you mentioned the ruler. You brought out the text with the young ruler who was following the law since birth. He say, since the beginning, since childhood, but he couldn't walk away from his riches. And you asked the question, you know, the possibility of did he make it? You know, blah blah blah. Was he faithful to the end? And I feel like that's a slippery slope, and I want to talk through it because
we don't have witnesses, at least in this book. So you're right about that, ultimately.
Because when it comes to like, there's a difference between, for one, if you read further down that chapter we was in, the 12 say, well, whoa, wait a minute. well, who can be saved? We left everything and followed you. And then he told them, those of you who left everything and followed me will ultimately sit on 12 thrones with me. You know, you will sit on 12 thrones with me and judge in the recreation, whatever the case may be. But we know everybody, I'm assuming, I think we're on the same page with this, not all of Israel do we believe, and help me if I'm wrong, sits on a throne with Hamashiach to judge in the creation. Like, just like in the temple structure, certain people could go but so far and couldn't go no more. And then you had others who can proceed and go further. So even within the temple, within the kingdom, there's an organizational structure and arrangement where not everybody. And the other thing I thought of to kind of compare it with, when you think of God's friend, Abraham, you know, Abraham, like, he left luxurious to go into the wilderness and to go into covenant with the Father. And his nephew Lot was the one that chose the bustling city of Sodom and Gomorrah, even though it was wicked. He went that way and it ended up being detrimental to him. But Abraham stood in the wilderness. So it would make sense that Abraham was the covenant Ibar, so to speak, versus Lot. When you think about, both of them was considered righteous. But when you look at Lot's situation, he was the one that was in the city with the wickedness. First, he was on the outskirts, got captured, and then they had to go and get him. Abraham had to go get him out, and then they end up living in the city. So how did that happen? And then we know how it played out when it was time to bring him and his family out. It seemed that the wife was the one that probably was the influence that wanted the city, because she couldn't go without it. She could not look back, whereas the rest of them made it up out the city. But both of them was considered righteous. And I would say you are rewarded as according to your works. Abraham had a higher, I would say, relationship with the Father, or he had a more, if you understand what I'm trying to say, his relationship with the Father and him being Father Abraham, the covenant relationship that we all benefit from, you know, was different from Lot, but both of them was considered righteous. So to say that that everybody will have to not only be willing to leave mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, all of these things, and leave your riches, I think that kind of put it on, it kind of creates the feeling that, well, if you don't do those things, then you won't be saved. You know, as far as the richest aspect, if you understand what I'm saying. But go ahead, I yield. I want to hear different perspectives on that.
Because pretty much what you're saying, there are levels to this. Read verse 11.
Yeah.
Book of Revelations, chapter 22, verse 11. He that is unjust, let him be unjust still.
Mm-hmm.
And he which is filthy, let him be filthy still.
Mm-hmm.
And he that is Zadok, let him be Zadok or righteous still.
Wait a minute.
And he that is Kadash, holy, let him be Kadash still.
So for those who are new, I don't want to confuse anybody, but there's a difference between being righteous and being holy. As you said, Gerald, the text said that Lot was righteous. But what's the difference between being Kodash, completely set apart? As we can see, Lot still has some leaven in his heart because he has sex with his daughters.
Well,
go ahead, Moran, correct me.
Yeah, because the fact that, so when we get into these philosophical questions,
Mm-hmm.
we have to be fair and disciplined and stay with what we can read, what we can touch. That's why this plumb line is not the Torah Group's plumb line. It's not Abaya's plumb line. It's the Most High's plumb line. So, because you get these philosophical questions. I hear them on the social medias all the time. Case in point, what's the one came to me? Let me stay on topic. But let's go back to the rich young ruler, because that's where this sidebar catapulted from. When we go back to the rich young ruler, we don't know if he didn't make it because the story's never finished. But the Messiah used his response, his first response, as a lesson. You see, he was sorrowful. So we don't know if he finally went home and says, well, hey, this man is healing the dead. Let me go back and tell him I done gave my stuff. We don't know that.
It could have been a chance of introspection.
Right. So when we deal with these philosophical questions, we have to deal with what's in the text, what's concrete.
Yeah.
So what we can touch with that story about that rich young ruler, Hamashiach used his response to tell people, it's not that the Most High wants your riches. I own a cattle on 1,000 hills. What do I care about your Lexus for? The Most High is saying, but your heart. What did Hamashiach tell him? Store not up for treasures on earth, for where your treasures are, so shall your heart be. So the Most High don't care about nothing here. No apple tree, no horse. It's all his.
It's all his anyway.
So we gotta, when we ask these questions, we go deep with these questions, but they go on a tangent to be philosophical. And we're concrete people, we're Israelites. We deal with what we can touch with the text.
So ultimately, as we've already confirmed before, we don't know what came of the young rich ruler.
Right.
We don't. But what we do know in John chapter 15 and verse 14, King Yahweh shall say, you are my friends, because you mentioned that word earlier with Abraham and the Most High. King Yahweh shall say, you are my friends if you do whatsoever I command you. And just based off of this precept, we know at that particular point in time, the young rich man was grieved at the word that he received.
Because everything, when we say all the time, the Most High has to be bored with us. The Most High has to be bored, but now because he set things in order, he has to wait and let this thing play out. So the rich young ruler is just a rerun of Abraham. Abraham was a wealthy man. He had defeated the kings. But what was Abraham's greatest possession? Yatazak. Not his son, because remember, Ishmael was first. Yashama was first. So Abraham had defeated these kings. They gave him wealth. And Abraham's greatest possession now was Yatazak, Isaac. And the Most High says, sacrifice him. And the Most High didn't want Isaac. He want, where's your heart now? Like us, how many of us church folks don't be shamed in church every day when you're jobless? In church, we record, so I ain't gonna say no names, but we lose our boo thing, lose our wives, our husbands, we back in church. It wasn't in church the whole marriage.
Two places you go back to. You go back to church, you go to the gym.
Exactly. So the Most High wants to know, he wants to know your heart. Can you serve me when the chips are down? And can you stay with me when the chips are up, when you have, like Job? And then King Dawid, and we'll wrap this up, King Dawid, not King Dawid, his son Solomon, in Proverbs, Mr. Precepts, come on now, live up to your name. He says, don't give me too much. He said, don't give me a little that I transgress your law and steal, but don't bless me with too much.
That's Proverbs 3.
That I forget. So we got to deal with what we can touch. We can, and I hear the Christians do it all the time. They ask all these philosophical questions, and then that's when Sirach come up. I'm gonna put some pressure on him. He says, what? Don't worry about things too high for you. So these Christians keep coming up with all these cockamamie questions.
He said it again.
And it's like that. Those questions have nothing to do with, we can touch what gives us salvation. What gives us salvation is obeying the law, statutes, commandments. That's what we can touch. So you got that precept?
Proverbs 30, another precept. Proverbs 30 and verse 7. Two things. I'm gonna start at verse 5. Every word of Yahweh is pure. He is a shield unto them that put their trust in him. Add thou not unto his words, lest he reprove thee, and thou be found a liar.
That's the law.
Two things have I required of thee. Deny me them not before I die. Remove far from me vanity and lies. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with food convenient for me.
Give me our daily bread. I don't need a freezer full of meats. I don't need a 4 or 5 bedroom. Look at my mansion. We got 10 bedrooms. How many kids you got? We ain't got no kids. What kind of madness is that? So that's why we ask. That prayer is about to be real for you if you don't know. Give us our daily bread. That means, Father, day by day, whatever we need, send that bird, send that gas money. We're about to get back to that. That's why we're trying to tell these Christians these words are alive. Stop just using these verses as pop culture bumper stickers.
And you even see it now, him giving us our daily bread by, imagine the days y'all at work and you feel like you got your temper point ready to just go off on somebody, but you don't. Now it was the Most High give you that extra provision of patience and long suffering. You know, and I thank you for that, Marah. Like I said before, I don't want to just be up here speaking vanity. So I'm glad you interjected.
No, we all learn. We all always learn. We're all students.
Indeed. And I appreciate that, Shalakia, because that's kind of like what I was seeking, to get that clarification, to get that fuller insight, because now I see it as what you were saying. Ultimately, you're saying we should all strive to be holy. Don't just settle with being righteous. You know, strive to be holy. Let the chips fall where they may. And yes, there's structure or whatever the case may be. And you brought out a good point, like even Christ said, you are my friends. Just like Abba Yah said Abraham was his friend. So I appreciate that, because I forgot that one too. But ultimately, am I walking away with the right idea that you saying we strive to be holy? We just ain't content with just following law, statutes, and commands.
How many times do you see when we were approaching Mount Sinai, the Father say, clean yourselves and your clothes and be ye holy, for I am holy?
It's a battle. Because of Adam's sin, you know, everyone wants to point it to our mother Kawah, it ultimately fell on Adam. Because of Adam's sin, everything we do now is a fight. Before you go out, Yah has something. So we got to strive for holiness.
Really, really quick, because I was thinking about this the other day. I'm glad you said that, because the Father just put it back to me. There's also a law if we vow a vow, especially for our women. If they vow a vow and they're still under their father's house, or if they're with their husband. If they vow a vow and the husband or the father ain't with it, they can girl, you tripping.
Get out of it. Yep.
And they'll be forgiven.
Right. They go. The husband would go to the father and says, "Father, I'm taking that vow back."
So that lets you know that all Father Adam had to do was go to the father when she ate from the fruit and would have said, "Father, she out here making it, like she out here doing something that you told us not to do. So just forgive her."
But if you were in the earshot of it,
but
I heard you.
If you heard it,
say
yeah, you didn't say anything and it's valid.
I'm gonna finish this Proverbs 30:9. Yeah, I'm already finished. I'm gonna go back to verse 8. Remove far from me vanity and lies. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with the food convenient for me, lest I be full and deny thee, and say, who is Yahweh? Or lest I be poor and steal and take the name of my Elohim in vain. So be content with what we got, and whatever the Father gives to us, be satisfied in that. We go out here trying to make a name for ourselves, trying to do things outside of His will. We'll end up building a golden calf. We'll deny Yahweh, or we'll take His name in vain and blaspheme His name.
Yep. Because remember now what chorus say? We all holy people. The Most High dealing with all of us. Yeah. But who's the Most High really dealing with? Masha. Abraham. or Lot? Who's the Most High dealing with? So it's definitely a distinction. And if we do everything he commands us with the testimony of his son, he might speak to us as well. So if there are no other comments, questions, concerns, I'm going to turn it back over to Mariah. And I thank y'all for y'all time.
1 second, Mario has something.
I was just gonna say about just the whole thing about judging and the books. It's kind of a lot, so I'm just give you the picture and then a couple precepts, and we can just talk about it more later. But the painted picture, even back to one of the precepts he brought out earlier, I couldn't remember which one it was, but it was saying that the righteous couldn't sin, or those that was made, that those that belongs to the Most High wouldn't stay in sin. But then those that belong to Hasatan, they continue to fall into the sin. And then when you look into the book of Enoch, it talks about in chapter 61, it talks about judging the holy, and then it talks about the sinners. So 61, it says, Yahweh seated upon the throne of his glory.
What verse you at, Shamar?
10.
Okay.
The elect one, it says, who shall judge all the works of the holy in heaven above, and in a balance shall he weigh their actions. And when he shall lift up his countenance to judge their secret ways in the word of the name of Yahweh Tazabah, and their progress in the path of righteous judgment of the Most High. So it says he shall lift up his countenance to judge their secret ways in the word of his name. And the word of his name is his son and his book, his Torah that he gave us. And your secret ways is, how are you acting when you're by yourself, when no one is watching? I'm going to judge your inward parts. I'm going to judge your heart. And then when you go to 62, it says, thus, just on that top, thus Yahweh commanded the kings, princes, the exalted, and those who dwell on the earth, saying, open your eyes, lift up your horns if you are capable of comprehending the elect one. Yahweh Tazabah sat upon the throne of his glory, and the spirit of righteousness, the Rawat Zadok, was poured out over him. The word of his mouth, the Torah, and his son Yahushai shall destroy all the sinners and all the wicked who shall perish at his presence. And then it says, in that day, all the kings, the princes, the exalted, and those who possess the earth stand up and behold and perceive that he is sitting on the throne of glory, that before him the holy shall be judged in righteousness. So just to keep it a little bit simple and just kind of, because it's a lot more to that theme, but the holy judgment and then the unholy judgment. And then a comment about Lot and Abraham, both being righteous, but one being set apart. One man lived in the midst of the chaos inside of Sodom and Gomorrah. So was he set apart? He wasn't. He wasn't set apart from the wickedness that was going on in Sodom and Gomorrah. And then, but of course, being righteous, Abraham and the Most High, he was brought out. But Abraham was righteous, and he was set apart from what was going on with Sodom and Gomorrah. And that's why there's the precept that says even the righteous will barely be saved. So Lot was barely saved because though he was righteous, he wasn't set apart from all the wickedness that was going on in the land that he dwelt. And in order for him to be saved, he had to be brought out and set apart from it.
So it just goes to show you that if you choose to follow the Most High, but still dwell among those who engage and commit to wickedness, you might catch a judgment that ain't particularly for you. So, go ahead, Yashio.
Romans chapter 1. Romans chapter 1 and 32.
We're gonna wrap it up after this one.
Who knowing the judgment of Yah, that they which commit such things are worthy of death, not only do the same, but that have pleasure in them that do them. So pretty much, it's not just gonna be those who willingly out here living in sin, it's those who have pleasure in seeing those individuals that are in sin doing sin. So if you're not out here checking people, holding people at accountability, then you're going to face that heat too.
Yeah, Avishai.
Oh yeah. Everything that's being said right now is real strong. And it what sparked it for me was what Shamari I was bringing out, and in Enoch, and that a great point that I find really, really strong that needs to be taken heed strongly and seriously is that secret stuff. The stuff that's done in secret when nobody is around, or when nobody that might be righteous is around and you're around other people and doing all this other stuff. So that's still secret, whether it's by yourself or with unrighteous people. And that's what's being brought out right now. And I think that's what the precept about that is what Peter said. He said things that are done in secret are shameful even to relate. It's too shameful to even talk about this stuff that's in secret, you know, and it's going to be shameful to people that are in this walk and that's doing right. So of course you're not going to tell righteous people what you're doing, you know, because it's too shameful to even talk about. It's the secret stuff. That part is real strong. And it says, yeah, the Most High is going to judge that inward part. That all that stuff is the things that we basically can out of sight, out of mind people, but you cannot out of sight, out of mind the Most High. He sees everything.
Think about it just like when you had to do a book report that you weren't prepared for. You had to go in front of the class. Think about that level of shame and embarrassment, because it says everything that's done in darkness is going to be brought to light. And I just imagine that feeling that I had, because that was me. I remember specifically in the 4th grade, I used to hate doing book reports and I hated reading. So that's a bad combination for me. So, you know, just that feeling of shame when you knew you were up there unprepared, you know, teacher looking at you and you sweating bullets trying to think of stuff. Now you looking at the King of Kings looking at you, and he looking at this book, and then he look at you, and he called all these things to mind. Now there ain't no way out. So absolutely, you know, that's why introspection was the main point of today's talking. Watching, of course, watching what's happening in the world, but most importantly, watching yourself, watching the inner man. Because if we over here talking about, man, I can't wait till you get to the wilderness, man. You ain't gonna make it to the wilderness. Come on. So, all praises for all of that.
Or get purged out.
So they gonna play the rebels out.
Somebody get the Most High hands. Come on, y'all. Man, I was edified. And it was right on time. And again, I did not vet anything he brought out because I knew breaking bread with him over this last year, I knew he was ready. Like the other two, you vet people, you test people. You don't open up your assembly to everybody because now you have to be responsible with this walk. This walk is not a game. It's not for celebrity status. It's not for like me, love me. This is a holy way of life we're living. And I brought the Most High for these young men showing their love and zeal for the Most High. Can somebody give the Most High a hand for that? Count up the cross. Count up the cross. I want to say this though. Because we're Greek students, we have all these deep questions. But I said it before, many times before, our way of life is not that deep, family. It's dummy proof. The reason why we got to go through all these long classes is because we're uprooting Christianity. we're throwing down the Greek tongue to telling us that redeem. Like we gotta learn what redeem really means. Our way of life is, let me proof it is simple. The Most High says, this day I give you life and death. Choose ye life or death. So all these questions these Christians come up with, and they think they stomping us. Oh, I got you. Even Hamashiach told them, the scribes and Pharisees sit in the seat of Moses. Listen to Moses. Listen to his writings. So our way of life is simple. We don't have to go through all these deep studies when we come back to the root of who we are. It's just because we're lost trying to defend our covenant to Christians and trying to combat every question they come up with. Now we got to go into the Hebrew. But our way of life is simple. Why would he make this thing so deep and on a eschatological level when he says, teach this to your sons and your sons' sons? Can you imagine trying to tell your 2-year-old, yeah, we're going to celebrate Passover when the sun revolves around the earth? And you know, somebody pop out, what are you talking about?
That's why he said, whenever they inquire and ask about it, say, yeah, this is just when the Most High delivered us out of slavery and had us well.
Simple. Tell your sons when they ask about these 12 stones represent when I stopped the Jordan up and y'all crossed over to Canaan. Our way of life is simple, family.
Salakia, which is a great point that you just made, Mariah. That's a great point, because when you think about it, everything in this system, like there's certain things that if a child asks, and the reason they created to be inquisitive to ask this stuff, but how many things are we taught growing up? Oh, a child ain't supposed to know that right now. The stuff that they kept away from you when you was the most impressionable, and that stuff could have stuck with you, and you could have understood it way sooner, you know. But they put that stuff off in the world we live in now. So the kid end up making a whole lot of mistakes and going too far off course that now you trying to redirect them. It's too late because you kept this stuff away from them. You know, whereas back then, if you did exactly what the culture say, what the scriptures say, and you instilled it in them early when they're impressionable, when they're young, then it would make a stronger impact, and you can prevent them from doing all. Like, why wait until the son is in school already like dressing like a female or acting some kind of way? Why wait? You could have been nipped that in the bud by teaching this kid young. Let me get off this tangent, but yeah, that's a good point.
The water.
Go ahead,
The water. To let me back on what Gerald just said. That whole look, it's psychology is everything. Spiritual things and psychology, you almost can't separate them because we're affected mentally. And that's all what psych means, mind. So the mind that we've had growing up in this captivity has made us like that. So we grow up thinking like, or not thinking like, those that teach us, they say, oh, stay in the child's place. Go sit at the child's table. Don't worry about that. So we've developed a culture of Negroes that don't want to teach your children nothing. You just want to whoop them. Don't do what I do what I say do. That's the culture. So that's why we're not being taught anything, because we lost the culture of, or our heritage of teaching the children and bringing up in the righteousness of Yah. We've taken on a whole nother thing because of the curses, a whole nother way of teaching your children, which is ain't teaching them nothing.